Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first to Spartan Grown.
Thank you very much, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces, or you could shoot me an email, spartangrown@gmail.com or russ@gmlarmy.com, and I can help you with all your growing or lighting questions. This is show 229 today, Jack. Does that make you feel old? It makes me feel old.
We've been doing it for a little while, right? 229 times at least. And next up, I'll pass it over to Noah the Grower.
How's it going, everybody? This is always a busy time of year for me, but happy to be back. I'm Noah D. Grow on Instagram. You can find me there and happy to be here.
Happy to have you back. And last and certainly not least, this week is the American one.
Hello, Jack panel, everyone in chat. I am the American one on the YouTube and the American one underscore with underscore Keens on the IG. And yeah, sorry about last week. My thing died and then my internet didn't connect. I don't know what was going on, but I just missed the last like 10 minutes. But yeah, sorry about that.
It is all good. No worries. Glad that you were able to make it. And even though you lost the power there on the phone, I was able to kind of give you a little, at least my version of your sign out. So at least people could find where they could get your stuff and where they could find you on the social media. So we were happy to have you last week, and we're happy to have you back this week, as well as Noah the Grower, who's been, like you said, busy. So we're always happy to have him. And I think Noah, you said you were going to be here just for the first hour. So at the about 5 o'clock mark here on the West Coast, I'll pass it over to you for final thoughts and shout outs. But until then, maybe we can get a little update from the two of you's gardens, starting with Noah the Grower. You had a couple harvests not too long ago on the show. How have things been going since then?
Been going good. I pulled down a really nice harvest. I was really lucky. As you guys know, sometimes farming it doesn't always work the way you want, but it was great. And I got another one getting ready to come down here in about a week and a half. And I got I had three new strains. One was lemon tree, one was the chem dog, and one was the baby Yoda. And of course, the one that you think of, oh, it's in the back. It's not the one I want, but the baby Yoda one was by far the best of the three. That's got some OG Kush in it, and I really like it. They were all good, great, but that one for sure is a keeper. I'm running the other ones again. We'll see. And another other harvest I got duct tape, Dosi Lotto. And Sherbaceo is the next harvest, the next one I'm pulling down here in probably about 2 weeks. It looks like it's gonna be water only from here on the way out.
Always a fun time to kind of see how they'll fade and finish up, and some of the stronger aromas start popping out there at the very end. And I always get excited and try and dial in the perfect harvest time. But sounds like a good time and always fun to try some new stuff. I wonder how much of it will stick around and how much of it is going to maybe move along in place of all the stuff that is kind of staples in the garden. Do you have any maybe indications so far on the early end of the smoke on what you're thinking about keeping?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, like in
I
terms of the new
thought so.
stuff, you got the Baby Yoda and then
Oh,
the Chem with
well,
the
so
Chem Dosi.
I'm lucky, or whatever you want to call it. I haven't had anything except for the stuff I've said it before that I've turned in my grow room that I would never smoke. It's all fire. So usually I start with growing characteristics because obviously if it's not fire, I don't even consider it. So they're all fire when it comes to smoke. But the Baby Yoda looks like it's going to be the complete package and the most stable. The other ones I see a little bit of just like stress stuff. So I'm gonna put it under a little bit more stress this time, see what happens. I want everything in there to be very stable just in case I run into a jam. So, but the Baby Yoda is the best on both fronts. That's why it's for sure already a keeper, and we'll see with the rest.
Good stuff. I'm always happy to hear when the new stuff works out. And having a new winner in the garden is always good. I'm hoping to find at least one. I know GG4 is kind of a staple, so I won't be surprised when that one's good. But the Death Star is one that I've only smoked and haven't gotten to grow yet. So I'm excited to grow that. And I already have ATG Acres reaching out saying, I heard from one of the listeners that you got the Death Star and maybe could I get a cut? And I was like, absolutely, man. As soon as I get that thing mothered out and rooted up, I'll hook you up. But I'm gonna maybe dangle over his head. Before I send that cut, you got to come on the show and hang out with us at least one time. So it'll be at least a month plus until
I
I have
like
those
that.
rooted. But it'll be a little bit of a motivator since he texted me out of the blue the other day and I was happy to see. But cheers to Aaron and glad that we're still able to keep in touch, even though he's not able to make the time for the show as much these days. Very busy guy, understandably. Big life-changing move from Northern California to Oklahoma, and to make that successful, one has to put in lots of work. Building a name and brand in a brand new state, and putting in a lot of hard work. He grows really dang bud, and sometimes that's not even enough. Crazy enough, the price points and marketing and what shops you can get in and not into. But
Just
I'm
jumping and navigating regulations, for God's sakes.
it can be a different thing every single day. You could buy a whole bunch of packaging and then never end up being able to use it because the next day they change the packaging regulations. So there's just some crazy stuff that goes down. So wish the best to Aaron, and I understand him and everybody else being busy. So, uh, but I do look forward to getting back in touch with him soon. And I'm glad that the cuts can be one of the things that can help reunite us. And I knew upon getting those cuts, not only will they be valuable in my own breeding program and growing in my garden, but it's nice to, as a person who likes to try and overgrow the planet, give out good genetics, at basically cost. Like if you can cover the shipping, I can get it to you if I have extras. And if you're within the community and you ask for it, you're looking for it, I'm going to try and keep them around as long as possible, keep them as healthy as I can. And I do everything organic, kind of modified grow media or grow mix. Some call it soil, but without the full sand, salt, and clay, I'll just stick to that terminology. So some people in the ultra deep organic side of things won't jump all over me, but most of them tend to be pretty chill, like the yellow skunk farms out there who are adding the sand, silts, and clays into their soils and actually making the stratification of the soils and the layers or whatever. But really cool stuff out there. And I think I'll pass it over next to Tao, and maybe we could get some updates from your garden and hear how things are going because I know you've gotten a little bit more stability over the last 6 months to a year after the move. And how are things going in the garden?
Not very good, basically. The summer again, I shut it down pretty much. But right now, I was just saying a couple of days ago, it's like it's time again to get it going. And yeah, I need to. I don't know, man. I've lost my mojo on this move. I need to get my shit back together. Is basically what happened, and it's yeah. I don't know, but yeah, I'm getting back on it shortly for sure.
Have you lost anything in terms of like live plants or cuts or
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I have. I lost that cheesequake male. But I have, I figure even at that point when I lost that one, I was like hurt. But the offspring that's why I bred it and kept them because the offspring is just as good and some are better. So I plan on working with the offspring of that time wreck. And I have two different crosses with it. So yeah, there's a thing where half sisters and half brothers. If you breed them together, you get like the genetics of the original somewhat back. You know what I mean? One of the offspring will be like the original. But
kind of how the Cinderella 99 was like back crossed to get as much of that Jack Herrera bag seed that he found as possible into seed form, essentially.
right, and that's pretty much the only thing that I lost that I really needed. I lost the blueberry male a long time ago, and the one I call proprietary is the only cutting I still got keeping going because I don't even know what that is. That's one of the reasons why I thought like that one. I don't even know what it is. So I couldn't find a replacement for what I don't know it is. So that's one of the reasons why I really tried keeping on that one. But yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm going to start up. I was even thinking either this. I think I'm going to start up a whole bunch of Stacy because I mean that was my favorite tasting one. But yeah, I'm just torn between all the seeds I got, and I'm going to start up them chocolates and the chocolate strains that I want to go through and find. I want to find that chocolate. So yeah, I'm torn, but I want to get back on it shortly.
Good stuff. And it sounds like you've still got a fair amount of the seed stock from any of the things that you lost, which is better than nothing, obviously. Losing the clones can be a little bit of a kick in the gut, but at the same time, if you have seed stock of it, like you said, you can find stuff that leans heavily that way and some of the offspring and even do some back cross work if you really wanted to nail down and stabilize and do like reproduction type stuff. But it also sounds like you've got some new exciting things on the horizon. I think it might just be time to start looking for that chocolate, whether it's the chocolate or other varieties out there that might have chocolate in them. I know for a while, many people have either talked about with you or shared with you seeds or suggestions on where to look for it. So that might be a fun, exciting one to get into the garden. I haven't seen it too often.
Yeah, I have to get on that because people had sent me seeds like a while back now, and yeah, I want to get on it. So that might be. I think I'm gonna do like yeah, just one strain of the ones that I want of my own, and then I'm gonna start some chocolate and go from there. So
Good stuff. Well, always nice to have something to look forward to in the garden moving forward. Spartan, I know you've got a whole bunch of different stuff going on between your personal garden and the Trichome Forge. What's maybe new and exciting over there?
Let me see. Right now in flower, I've got a big old Spartan puke in there that's taking up a ton of fucking space. And then I've got what I'm excited about is two different phenos of the bliss bud. And I've been growing bliss bud for a long time, but I've been growing the same pheno this whole time. And I've had a few extra seeds that I just hadn't got around to popping. Well, I popped two of those, and I've got them. They were both female, and they're in flower right now in the same pot. So I'm just calling them the one, my keeper, I'm calling number one, and the two in pot, I just numbered two and three. And so there, the lineage on that one is the Bliss Bud is it's sour diesel mother, and then the father is going to be that PT. They never named it, so it's pineapple Thai crossed to sour strawberried. And what was cool is just the other day they're about halfway through flowering right now, and the number three has got it started smelling strongly of strawberries just recently, like where I can really pick out the strawberry over it. So I'm excited about that one because I don't get that in the cut that I'm growing now. And then number two cut is a lot like the cut I'm growing now, but it's just like it's slightly different on the gassier side. So which is still interesting. So and both of them structure wise is like just amazing, just grows good. But Bliss Bud always is that one that's like a really vigorous plant anyway. But it's just when you go from seed, it's just that whole a whole nother level of vigor, in my opinion, than when you grow from clone for years. So almost like a tissue culture, I guess, reset. So I'm excited for those, and I mean, it's still got like a month away from harvest. But then also, I've had a plant outside that's Sparkle Face from 2020 Mendocino, which was the Snow King and Biscotti cross. And that one's stinking already outside, but it's not flowering. I mean, it looks like it's maybe in week two of flower right now, so it's got a long ways to go. But what's even cooler to me is I had this year in my vegetable patch a plant just sprout up. So Emily coined her, shout out to Anything Grows, she coined her Out Dolores. So Out Dolores out there, it was growing in the next to the cabbage and the potatoes, and she is freaking getting big, you know. So I have bent her through like a metal kind of trellis thing that I have. So it's a funky shaped plant, but I believe we are succeeded in keeping her below the fence line because she's already done stretching, and she looks like she's like week four. So I definitely got a cut of her, and it's already flowered, and I mean not, it's already rooted and in a little starter cup right now in my veg inside. So I'll be probably flowering that inside as well to check out what that one is because it flowered at least 2 weeks faster than my other plants outside. So definitely holding on to that one. That one's smelling more on like the gassy sour diesel side of things. The Sparkle Face is just straight skunky, foul, dank smelling, and that's the one I'm actually more excited for. Just one of those things that when you smell it, it turns something on in your brain, and you're like, "Yeah, I want that." So I'm most excited for that Sparkle Face, which is also got a clone and rooted inside, so I'll have it inside too.
It's always nice to have it both inside and outside and to have a clone backing it up. Biscotti's been one that I have been a fan of for a long time. Just the flavor is pretty strong flavor wise, and the effects are not lacking. So in terms of like that realm of genetics, that's probably some of the better stuff that's come out in the last decade or so. And so I'm glad that he does some work with it, and it'll be interesting to see how it ends up with the cross that you have, the sparkle face, with the snow cane on the other side. And snow cane is one that I have less slash no experience with, but I've heard a lot about it because you guys did that whole grow off, and your
Yep.
cut ended up being selected for the kind of back crossing of the breeding work that was done over there, which was just kind of a cool project all in all, how everybody kind of got the winning cut. You sent it enough that everybody who participated got a cut. And I think that kind of stuff needs to be replicated more often, right? Because it's like a lot of people are in anything for a story, whether it's like cars or plants. They like to know the history, the background, and all the other stuff. And so the more you can kind of not like just hype stuff up with like an event, but if it is actually good, the stuff will shine. And a lot of people will remember it and ends up ultimately like there was, seeds made and sold on the back of the reputations of the potencies and flavors and phenotypes that people were coming across within the genetics. So it's nice to kind of, in your case, be part of the process in that. And not only with that, now the Spartan Puke and the Project V and all the different crosses, it's pretty fun to see the lineage kind of keep expanding in a positive way.
Oh, and big shout out to Adam out there at 2020 Minutes. He didn't have to give me credit for pheno hunting. All I was. I was just pheno hunting for him in that contest. And they just took the winner of the contest in Michigan and they smashed it to the winner of the contest in Cali and they made the Snow Cane V2 out of that. I thought that was cool as shit. And it's cool as shit that on the Snow Cane V2 packs, and when they're talking about the lineage of the strain, they call it the Snow Cane Spartan cut. He gave me a little credit for finding it, and I wasn't expecting that, but just to see my name on another person's seed pack, that was fucking cool as shit to me. I got a kick out of it. I still have the seed pack, downstairs. So yeah, shout out to 2020 minutes. I got some
Well,
good
and
stuff.
anything that gets bred to will, have that in it's starting a new family tree, essentially.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that's part of the beauty about genetics. If it is good and people work with it, which is the ultimate flattery, even if they rename it, ultimately, like people should be able to source it back and put in parentheses or whatever what the name of the actual parents are, ideally. And even if they don't do that, there's a lot of people like myself who sleuth out the details of where they got the genetics from and uh, try and give credit to the people who made the originals. And then I think there's no shame in like working with really good work, right? Like that's why I picked up GG4 and Death Star. It's like tried and true proven cuts. And it's fun to intermingle those with some of the stuff that's like from the community, like stuff that I got from my buddy Vegan Doja or stuff that I got from Spartan Grown or whoever. It's just the wider we can make things, the better we are at avoiding becoming like the Apple industry where there's like big five or six and then everything else kind of gets lost to the wayside. And there's the one guy who's got like 150 Apple varieties or whatever, but he's like 70 years old and he's going around
Yeah.
trying to show everybody his table full of them and giving out seeds and doing this and that. But it takes a village, so to speak. So we need a lot of people to kind of champion all these different varieties. And I think thankfully the one saving grace is people do variety is the spice of life, so to speak, and people like change and people like to not always have the same exact thing over and over. And even if you do like the same thing over and over again, it's nice to be able to branch out and try something different. So I think we're going to continue to see more and more variety be bred into cannabis. And whether it's going back to the land race, which there are pools of people doing that, there are pools of people that are on like the cookie train or the OG train or the chem train or whatever, and they're all sort of branching out in different directions. But I think the nice thing is any independent grower can pick up work from any one of those pools and then start splicing them together. It's like, oh, I got this from the OG guy, and I'm crossing that to the blueberry guy stuff, and then I can, make a whole different pool, my own pool over here. And
Well, and then don't
I'm seeing
be
lots and lots of
scared
that. We've
to.
encouraged it for years.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be scared to do it. That's the thing is that could be an intimidating thing, but like if you're not looking to like I'm not gonna, support myself on selling seeds and you just want to play around, what is the harm? What is the harm to screw around and who knows what you may find? Who knows what you might come out in that cross? And I love how you were talking about the different ways you can breed, but one that you missed is just to expand your seed collection on the seeds that you like. Me, myself, a perfect example is that Vortex. When I scored that Vortex pack, I was like, the first thing I want to do is make more Vortex. Because 5 seeds or 6 seeds or whatever comes in that pack, hell no. I want more of that. This is my favorite TGA strain of all time. I am fucking gonna, and that's where Project V was born, was that pack being expanded into as many seeds as I can make out of it. And then I hit it next to my favorite strain. I hit it to my Donnyburger because, that Donnyburger brought the punch as far as more couch lock side for me. And then the Vortex brought that punch on the sativa side. So why not cross those together and see what the hell would happen? And it just happens to be a really, really good cross. A lot of people like it. And there's a little variation between it, but still, I mean, it's what do they say? You smash gold with gold, and you're apt to get gold coming out the end of that. Chances are a little bit higher anyway.
Yeah, Josie said something similar. He said, fire with fire, even if it's an accident in his case, like if you've got fire strains in the room and they accidentally pollinate each other, he wasn't worried to grow out the offspring because he figured two really killer strains, the offspring's going to be pretty killer too. And it turns out GG4 is still one of the most widely appreciated. And funny enough, I think initially when I was popping the Vortex, I've got two really strong, healthy growers right now, and one of them is definitely more of a runt. So of those two, I'm probably going to either grow them out until they're big enough that they show sex or get them sex tested at some point. But I thought initially I was like really hoping like, oh, I hope one of them is female, at least one of them's female. But now I'm like, even if it's a male, I'll end up using. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to take cuts of it. I'm going to hang on to it. And whenever I do breeding, I want to potentially like have my own F3s from the Project V F2s to expand on, like you were just talking about. I love Vortex, and the F1s were great from Subcool, and you're giving people. And that's something that I want to continue. Like Tao's always talked about in the past, his stuff's extremely stable, like very, very rarely ever has Hermy issues. And so to have even F2 work of that, to be able to start pushing into the Death Star, to cross it into the GG4, to cross it into maybe Velvet Punch or Spike Punch or any of the other crosses that I end up growing and finding to be decent cuts. So it's, I think, going to be a lot of fun to see because initially I was like, oh man, I really hope they're not all males, right? But now I'm like, even if they're all males, I'm going to pick the best looking one, hang on to it and take cuts of it and then play with it because I'm not afraid to make seeds, and I want to change it up a little bit from the Velvet Punch. I've done it for years. I went through multiple generations, growing it from F1 to make the selections, and making the F2s, growing several generations of F2s, then making the F3s, growing several generations of F3s, and doing like testing, stress testing, and all that on all the generations. It's a quite a process. So I'm ready for something new and different. And even if I cross some stuff into that I actually found my original Velvet Punch F1 pack, and I still have a shit ton of them. The dude who hooked me up, I will probably have to seed cracker them because they've been not kept in the coldest environment. But I do think that with enough effort, I'll be able to get even some of those to pop. So I can make more F2s or cross some stuff, back cross some stuff. The opportunity is all over, but it's just so much fun to look around and experiment a little bit.
I'm always experimenting. I experiment with strains that we got at the Trichome Forge. I didn't go over any of that really, but one thing that's cool and that we got going on is we have a tissue culture GMO and then our cut of GMO, and we're running them side by side. And I can tell you, we've both already noticed the vigor. We do see the vigor thing. Absolutely, we're both believers of that because we had a GMO cut that was actually already planted, rooted and planted in a not a 1 gallon, half-gallon pot. And when we got the cut back from tissue culture, it was rooted, but I mean, it was a small, tiny little plant. And now that we've flipped to flower, the tissue culture is already caught up to the other one, and it's starting to surpass it as far as size of plant goes. So we'll see how it finishes out, but it's cool to see. It's cool to actually see right before your eyes the difference between the two of them.
I think that's definitely a thing. The GG4 that I got from Tiki is allegedly tissue cultured to be cleaned up every so often, and he tests them for all different types of pathogens, etc. And once I got them planted, they rooted extremely fast, even though I didn't have like perfect technique on my planting. They're growing really well under, fairly minimal veg light, and I'm very happy with both the plants that I got. So it's nice to have stuff work out as you intend sometimes. And I think tissue culture can be the backbone of a healthy start in a lot of breeding programs. But going back a little bit to experiments, I'm curious if anybody else is doing any current experiments in their garden or if they have done any recently and like how do they turn out?
I am doing another experiment in my own garden, just trying Grandmaster nutrients, which is are salts. And so I decided, okay, if I'm going to do salts, I'm going to, because I don't like to have to, get rid of media. So if I was going to use cocoa, I was going to be like, what am I going to do with this used cocoa afterwards? I said, fuck it, I'm just going to do DWC. So I put that, I started a Mac 1 in a DWC bucket, and I'm experimenting with just a two-part nutrient. So, well, I guess it's three-part because you got a base nutrient, a veg nutrient, and then a bloom nutrient. But you only use two parts, obviously. You'll use the veg and bloom and bloom. But um, and all I'm doing is just I just creeped up right now to 1.0 EC. So I just use equal parts of both and just adjust EC. It's fairly easy. And so far, it's been growing just fine, growing good. I'm happy with the results so far, but obviously, we're in the easy part of the grow. We're just in veg. So I think most nutrients, if you follow their whatever, you can get pretty good results. But so far, we're not crashing into a wall or anything. So we'll see what happens once I get into flower. This is just a DWC bucket, like literally a 5-gallon bucket with some air stones in it and the little sight valve so you can see how much water's in it. That's it. Nothing high tech at all.
Have you gotten like a pretty rapid growth like you typically see in a DWC? I've heard people
Oh
report
yeah.
up to like 3 inches a day, but at least 1 inch a day for veg.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty rapid growth, but I wouldn't say I'm getting 3 inches. Or this is also you have to remember this is Mac 1, so it's notoriously not going to grow fast. Another reason I picked Mac 1 because I can throw it in a DWC and it's not going to grow extremely crazy fast on me. Um, so that's exactly why I picked it. So no, I haven't seen extremely fast growth, but I've seen not in height, but I have seen much bigger and fatter blades on the leaves themselves. So if you take each fan leaf and you look at each blade, the blades are much bigger, fatter, much bigger leaves than what I've been seeing. I'm actually running another Mac one, which is a little bit older and bigger, in a sip container next to it. So I can
Same
kind
light?
of same light. They're right next to each other under the same light, and so I can compare like the look of the plant, the morphology of the plant with each other. See if nutrition is really even making a big difference. And really the only thing that I could say is from, the naked eye easily visible, the size of the leaves are much bigger on the DWC plant.
It's interesting to note early on, and I bet you'll start to see more and more from anything from aroma differences to like you said, morphological, not just the leaf structure, but also the physical structure of the plant. One might be a little taller, one might be a little bit wider or bushier, depending on the shape of the container, the size of the media, etc. I think sometimes the plant almost mimics the shape of the container. If you give it like a wider base, I feel like it broadens out a little bit. If you put it in like a Pringles can, you kind of get these tall, lanky, or skinnier plants. But it is interesting to see because DWC has such a high potential for when things are going well. And it sounds like things are going pretty well so far. You've done it before in the past, so you've got a little bit of a baseline of experience. And this line seems fairly grower friendly in terms of only having 3 parts and only really using two at any given time. So,
Yeah, they literally
um,
gave me no advice. He did give me no advice. He just said, "Here's some samples. Try them out. Tell me what you think." It's just equal parts of each. I'm like, "Okay, sounds easy." And I'm like, "I have so many questions." Now that I'm actually sitting. This was like much later when I actually started up the DWC bucket and started to actually have to use the nutrients. I'm like, maybe I should have asked so many more questions on what I should do. And I was like, "No, fuck it. I'm just gonna go with what he gave me. Use equal parts and go from there." So that's what I do,
and
and
like,
it's
does it
working
matter which
out.
order you mix them?
It's only two
Because I
things.
feel like
Well,
that
I
normally
imagine
matters.
that it makes sense in my head to use the base first and then use veg. And then when I go to flour, I'll use the base first and use flour. But I don't know if there's a difference. But that's how I'm doing. I'm not adding any additives. No, anything. No silica. No. The only thing I would consider is maybe microbes, but I haven't yet. Maybe like a mammoth pea or a targeted microbe or something like that.
think it'd be interesting without them at least one run and then see
Yeah.
the second time or through like now that you've got a known clone, the Mac that you're pretty familiar with already, you can kind of tweak and see like if I push the EC to 1.5 instead of 1.0 early on, or if I pushed it to 2 or something like that, how much can I get away with before the plant starts to look dark green or burnt tipped or
Yeah.
has some sort of negative reaction?
I went from I went from a cloner with just tap water in it, a rooted clone with a little bit extra longer root than what I'd normally leave it in there, just because I knew I was going into a DWC bucket, and it's like a net pot, so it has to get through the net pot into the water, and uh, and I put it into the first mix. It came up to a point 0.4 EC, so like I think that's like 400 on a TDS or whatever, and they actually got burnt tips even at that low. I was like, what the fuck? And I'm thinking, oh, it's because I'm going from organic to synthetic. I'm flipping back, and it always seems like it always they get pissed off at first. So then the next bucket I switched out after a couple weeks, uh, and I brought it up to a point 0.6 EC, and I came the next day, and it was down to a point 0.4 EC. I was like, all right, fuck this, and I filled it up with a little bit more water and added a bunch of nutrient to that water to bring the EC up to a 1.0, and it didn't burn the tip, and it's just chugging right away and loving it at 1 EC. So we'll leave it there for a while and maybe up, like you said, up it up a little bit more and see how she reacts.
What kind of pH ranges do you run?
5.7 to 6 in my veg. I'm pretty wide open, but I like to be 6. I like to just leave it straight at 6 if I could all the time, but I'll let it range lower. That just means it's more available, most of those nutrients. I don't like to go higher than 6.
Yeah, that might also be kind of what you're talking about with the organic as well, from changing the nutrients. They're usually a little slightly higher pH range, I think, in organic, but not too crazy that it's gonna, not work or anything. Obviously, you're showing that it's working out. I don't know if you mentioned already, but I heard you say you have a net pot. There's a lot of different things that you can put in there. I've seen everything from rock wool to the hydroton kind of clay pebbles and lots of different options. So what did you end up going with for the filling of the little net pot container at the top of the DWC?
Those hydrogen pellets, already had a bag of them. Like I bought a bag a long ass time ago, and because I had some DWC buckets that I would run in the wintertime, and I just had a bunch already there. So and you can just wash those and rinse them off and reuse them again, 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 again. So it's hard to really run out of them.
I know people that because they got them for DWC and now grow in soil, use them as aeration for their soil, and it even worked in that regard. So they're kind of an interesting little object that seems like kind of almost like pumice in the regard that it's reusable, it works as aeration, and it's not going to crush up into like small little dust or powder or almost sand like a perlite will, or even just float up to the top and then get rinsed away because it's so light. Even like a chunk of perlite this big, you would think is like, oh, that's going to be a heavy little rock, but it almost feels like a popcorn kernel, it's like full of air, and it is good for its purpose. It creates drainage, but it does not want to hold its spot in the media for the most part. So I'm a much bigger fan of, I'd even recommend the hydroton in a soil, but pumice I think is more purpose uh, focused and
Yeah,
probably cheaper.
and heavier, stays put in the soil. I like that stuff a lot. Clay, if you're using those clay pellets, especially if it's coming out of a bag or something that you haven't used before, I really highly, highly suggest that you like for me, I can just throw them back on my back deck, and because there's space between those boards of the deck, and it acts like a strainer, and I can just spray them with the hose. But they're loaded, loaded because they're clay. They're loaded with all kinds of dirt and debris. And if you don't rinse them, and then you're like were to water through them or something like that, or fill up your bucket through that, and that goes down into your reservoir, oh wow, that's going to change your pH pretty quick. So, yeah, make sure you rinse them first before you set up your buckets because, yeah, you'd be
Probably
surprised.
crazy micronutrient in there
Yeah,
with the
oh
different
yeah, dude.
clay powders. It would throw off your nutrient like regime. You have no way of knowing what's in there, and there's probably a lot of it in that dust accumulate. So great advice there to give them a little rinse or bath before. And I've definitely seen the same thing that you're talking about. You can even see it in the bag when you pick up the hydro. Like when I used to go to the hydro store, when you picked it up, almost like a bag of cereal when it kind of gets
Yeah.
crushed up, all the powder and stuff in the bottom. It's like that with the Hydroton. It's or yeah, those big, bags of them. It's
Yeah, when you pick them up,
reminds me that I should wear a mask when I go to pour any of that stuff out.
yeah, because you think of those bags, all those balls are in there, and you throw it on the pallet, and you get other bags, throwing them on the pallet, smashing against them, grinding. And when you pick the bag up, everything is forced down to the bottom, and they're grinding against each other as they move around. So yeah, you get a good amount of dust, a lot of dust, a surprising amount of dust.
More than you would hope for sure. But that being said, it can still work. Like you're saying, it's working for you with the DWC, and I'd say that's probably the most common thing that I see. Maybe like pumice or lava rock I've seen, but more often than not, it's the hydroton. And I think just because the way that it fills those little net pots and the amount of aeration, and like you said, you
And
can
it
rinse them
still
off and
wicks,
clean them and reuse them.
and it still wicks water, which is nice. So like the bubbles of your aeration below in a DWC, for example, will fling water up onto the bottom of that, and it'll wick some of that water up towards the top. You won't ever see the top very wet. You'll see that stay dry, which is also really kind of a cool benefit in my opinion, because that keeps the fungus gnats, things like that away, because you have no environment for them. I'm loving that. And so far, I haven't been running anything like I haven't been running anything yet that's keeps it sterile. Like I'm not running H2O2 or anything like that in the res, but I keep, when I check the water, I pop the bucket up and I got white roots right now. So until that changes, I'm not going to treat it with anything.
Yeah, why if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? And it's the hottest probably time of the year for most people, most places, unless you're in the southern hemisphere listening. And shout out to all you who are. I guess we do have some listeners down there according to our analytics, and I do get some messages from y'all from time to time. So, but for us up in the northern side of things, it is hot during the summer, and DWC, this is the biggest challenge, especially if you don't have like a dedicated chiller. So the fact that you're able to make it work right now, because like you said earlier, it's kind of something that you've reserved for the winters in the past. So even in late summer, early fall, to make it kind of work and have it work well is a good sign. And also something that shows that his this GML nutrients, it seems, is not necessarily like super picky or if you do one little thing wrong, then it's gonna get algae all over the roots. Like I know a lot of people that ran DWC that ran like Ponzyme or Hygrozyme or some other enzyme product to keep the roots from getting covered in algae or other sort of pest pathogens, etc.
It also helps with the bucket I have. It's a black bucket, so that and the net pot is black, so there's no real light allowed to get in there. That helps us a lot for things like that.
People underestimate that so much. Even like a pretty big grower, Loki grower, he was using like DWC tables and he was making them out of like white PVC. And that kind of surprised me, but he made it work. He did have chillers and probably ran H2O2 and stuff through the water. But I always really enjoyed his grows. I don't know if he dropped off or if my algorithm's not feeding me his stuff anymore, but he was on the scene for quite a while.
Yeah,
And
I don't think he's posted for a while, or maybe I missed him, but for sure, Loki Grow, I remember him for sure. He was out in New York, I believe.
yeah, he definitely had a almost Tao-like accent. And I think there was a point where somebody like tried to dox him. They were like posting photos of him at an event, and that would make a lot of people want to duck their head down for a little bit, I think, if there's some shysters like that in the community. But at the end of the day, I think thankfully things are getting more and more accepting for people that grow and or just consume cannabis. Most states now allow some form of it. The hemp farm bill, even though it's being kind of rolled back a lot of places, unfortunately, um, gave national sort of reciprocity of like sending seeds and hemp clones and things of that nature without any real risk or worry of getting prosecuted for it. Because for a long time, if you get anything like that nabbed in the mail, you were kind of sweating and waiting for a door knock or something like that to come around. So thankfully, similar-esque to Canada, we're able to send at least the quote unquote hemp stuff. So anything that's in veg, or ideally, a lot of people will just take it to well, it's not THC, uh, it's THCA. So people will just send any flower and call it hemp. And I think some of the loopholes I think are trying to be closed, and maybe some of them are going to get closed, but I don't think that that's happened yet. But all that aside, I'm gonna get back to the experiments in the garden. I'm curious if Noah the Grower has got anything going on in terms of experimenting. Whether I know sometimes you run 2 lights or three lights and four. Have you done anything different lately, and how's it worked out? Or are you doing anything different currently? And what do you maybe expect?
Well, just switching up different strains. And actually, I haven't done it yet, but the last time that I went to the grocery store, which I embarrassingly don't do as much anymore because of the delivery service that everybody knows that actually is cheaper than everyone else. But I went there to get some soil, my favorite soil. I got a really good deal. I actually called their rep, was going to buy a pallet of it. And they were like, hey, man, you need to just try and find somebody that can drop box it to you at one of these places. I called around and they quoted me like comparable with the pallet price. So I went there and bought some. And I was talking to the guy about it because, you know what I mean? Like, it's the first time that I'd ever seen it in a grow store. And I go, so how is people liking this soil versus Ocean Forest Fox Farms, which is what we used to use? And he said it's kind of comparable, but everybody else likes this other one. So I actually bought a couple bags of Ocean Forest Fox Farms, and I'm going to do a side by side, like, you know, two clones, same cut, come from the same plant, and then do it, you know, same fertilizer, everything, and then so that is the current
Bro,
experiment that
you
I'm
should
getting ready to
get
run.
you should get a
So,
bag of build a soil and run it with that as well, because I would be super
oh,
interested in
you
build
know,
a
I
soil.
bought some
Build
Epsom
this.
salts from them when I first started doing living soil. So the when you're talking about, that's kind of like the amendments to put in the soil to make it a living soil, or just their actual living soil.
They have a living
Hmm.
soil mix already. It's called Build a Soil 3.0.
Okay.
They've got a bunch of soil mixes, but if you just get the Build a Soil 3.0, it's like your other mixes, what you're working with. So it'd be like your answer to your Fox Farm Ocean Forest,
Hmm.
or the remember the Ocean Forest mixed with Fox Farm, where you mix it half and half
Yeah, absolutely.
with the Happy Frog, I mean.
Happy Frog. Yeah, that's what I have done that before too.
Oh
So,
yeah. He just did. If you go to build this one, if you want, I can send you the link. Maybe
yeah, sure.
next time you're trimming or whatever. But he just did a YouTube video on where he compared a bunch of soils. Just he went to like Home Depot and bought a bunch of different ones, and then he threw his mix in there too, and then had them like soil tested. And then he goes through why he likes and why he doesn't like the soils compared to what his are, and why he
Hmm.
uses the ingredients he uses. And that's what I was doing. I was trimming my weed, and I was sitting listening to him like. Next time I need soil, I'm gonna buy a bag of his shit and try it because I kind of agree with what he was saying.
Heck
So
yeah. Yeah, I last show I was on a few weeks back, I was listening to Jack and Brandon talk about his brand of nutrients, and what's funny is the one that it was being compared to, BioBiz, is actually what I use. But I also, you know, I use a little bit of BioBiz, I use a little bit of this, but I actually had a bag of advanced nutrients organic line, I bought a big container of it right when I first started doing living soil because my plants started getting a little deficient. And so I just kind of panicked and I went there, and that was the first one that I recognized. And it was like clumpy and like mildewy. And I took it back and they exchanged it, and they gave me this huge container of BioBiz. I mean, like, I mean, literally,
I've
it's
heard
like
good things about
2 gallons.
BioBiz.
That's good stuff, man.
It is good stuff. It's really good stuff. I'm just telling you right now. So it's actually, it's, as far as organic, fully organic line. I mean, I like it. So, but I also have had it forever, and it's free, and I just use it. I use it on my strawberries, plants outside. I use it all over flowers. I use it all over the place. So,
It's good, man. It
yeah,
works.
it is. Yeah, it makes really good tasting stuff, which is important to me. So.
That to me is the pinnacle of everything. That's the reason that I was pushed so hard to get back into growing is even though I'm getting like pretty good quality to like even high quality stuff for free, the stuff I can grow is, and not to be a fucking snob, but I can grow better tasting and smoother. Most importantly, smoother stuff. A lot of the stuff that tastes good is harsh. And it's like, I don't know if it's because it's so terpy or if it wasn't dried or cured just properly or something, but I think it's a lot of the nutrients that are pumped into the stuff in the legal markets. It's just such a higher EC content the whole entire time. You're not going to be able to flush it in a couple weeks at the end when they're running like 2.5 to 3 or 4 or 5, 6 EC. Who knows what the fuck at some of these facilities. and we're running like 1.5 or living soil and water only, basically start to finish. I wish Jeremy would pick up a Michigan-made mix M3, do some testing on that stuff because all the testing I've seen has been very good. It passed for all the heavy metal testing. I like all the, well, admittedly, it's not like a veganic soil mix or anything, but I don't hate the inputs that they use. Some of them have controversy. We talked about, I think, like the fossilized seabird guano or blood meal and things like that. But
Bone meal.
I
Yeah.
eat meat. Okay, so if you
Well, it's
eat
not so
meat,
much. It's not so much having a problem with an animal product. It's a product of the animal products that are sourced. So, in a lot of the soils, when you get feather meal, it's a waste product from the industrial farming. It's not a waste product from, your neighbor who has five chickens that are,
I
humanely
will say
treated.
USDA beef regulations are extremely strict because the mad cow and all the different stuff that happened in the early
Beef,
2000s.
but not poultry, and that's why it's
No, but
cheap,
right,
and
right,
that's
right.
why
So I'm
they use it
talking
as an
instead of feather
input.
meal, we're talking blood meal right now and bone meal,
Oh,
which are both
but
coming from
okay.
bovine. And just like leather is a byproduct of that industry, some people like to hate on it. They'll throw paint on people or fake blood or whatever it is. Um, I get
The,
people's passion on that side
the
of things.
people
So
have passions about organic inputs, and it's like, how can you say it's an organic input if this was an animal that is shot up with so many synthetic drugs? That's not a consideration when it comes to the organic label. It can still be considered organic because it came from an organic animal. Like the animal was, an animal. A cow itself is an organic thing.
it can be, it can be. And
Yeah.
then it can also be a very synthetic thing that's fed
No, that's
synthetic
my
feeds.
point.
And
It can be a very synthetic thing, but once it dies, it's considered organic just because it died and it was a cow.
yeah, it's carbon, a carbon-based input. And in that regard, I agree with you that the sourcing of it is important. Um, I do think sometimes for the plant, it doesn't matter as much, but and how much refining is done in those processes to have just the meat and just the leather and just the hoof, which is turned into gelatin, which is, it's just like the resourcefulness. Honestly, you have to hats off to them. When we talk about using the whole plant, they're using snout to tail, like they're friggin' using the whole animal. And butchers are artists, and if you've never had to do it yourself, or met a good one, I think it's something that we can underappreciate because many of us just get our food from a grocery store or, buy it at a restaurant. And so you don't think about the process, but as somebody who does personally eat meat, and I've been a vegan for a year, I've been a vegetarian for a couple of years, and nothing, before I guess I don't want to even get into that side of things, but just from the raw input usage standpoint, I think both can work, just like hydro versus organic. I think like veganic versus organic with animal inputs is a little bit of a it can take our eye off the ball, which is we're just all trying to grow dank cannabis with the best inputs that we can source for the most reasonable prices. And in this case, I just got turned onto a soil that I think is absolutely fantastic that comes in a plastic bag that I don't have to do the work of like mixing up a super soil. Subcool super soil recipe still to this day will grow you fucking fire. Flame, flame, flame. If you do it right and follow the basic recipe and mix up a batch and let it sit for a little, grow in some, more basic stuff for veg, it'll still rock. But it's nice to be able to have a bag. And I'm not saying M3 is the only one. If you bought the Build a Soil 3.0 or Build a Soil has other blends, I think maybe the craft blend is one of their reamendment things, but I think they might also have like a
Oh,
craft blend soil as well.
well, they have a system. So like they have a system like their Build a Soil 3.0 is all of the inputs that they would use to build a soil, but they also have all of those inputs. So if you want to source your own peat, if you want to source some of your own inputs locally, you can do so and then just get the stuff you can't find locally from him to complete that soil, which I think is pretty cool as well. It gives you the option to get from local and usually save money if you can get it locally, especially
The
if you're
rigor of
getting
his
from
testing is
Michigan.
what makes it so worth it for me.
Oh,
And
that for sure too. That
same with like Swan when he was alive and now whoever's running M3, they source stuff from high quality. Like they'll only use Canadian sphagnum uh, peat. They're not going to use the cheapest stuff. They're going to use the best quality stuff because that's what they always use, and that's how the M3 worked so well. And it's just like Subcool's mix. Like I think that you could probably do 1,000 soil mixes and 1,000 of them could probably grow you dank. And they'd probably, we eventually figure out like this one grew the most, this one had the best flavor in terms of terpenes and other aromatic profiles and flavor and some
Yeah.
things like that. But, you know, I would guess like probably 500 plus of them are going to grow you like really good stuff and have pretty good yields. And like 500 of them are going to be like your big box store quality that has like barks and like garbage quality inputs that aren't going to grow anything super well, from a house plant to a potted plant to a, outdoor garden or whatever. But especially not what we're trying to do, which is high performance indoor cannabis growth at basically like the highest rate possible, highest yields possible, and maximum amount of uh, you know,
Yeah.
chemical production possible.
But you have to admit, we are blessed in our space right now, at least in the United States, to where we have all of these different soils and blends available to us.
Oh yeah,
And
even our stuff
inputs.
that we consider like low tier or like bad
Yeah.
now in comparison, like what Noah's talking about, like with the Fox Farm, I think is going to get blown away by like the BioBit, Bio 365, whatever it is, a modern, more upgraded soil that can be a true water only.
You'd be surprised
But
by 365
even
within that test, and it did not test well on Jeremy's test. I was
Interesting.
surprised
I
to
haven't
see that.
personally grown with it, but I've seen people, and it sounds like Noah supplements, so that would make sense that using BioBiz would, and a lot of soils do
No,
tend
BioViz,
to do
yeah, that's
better.
different. Using BioViz, that's what helps. I've heard very good things about BioViz. I'm just saying, for like, I don't think Bio 365 is like a standalone. I think it's something you have to add something to.
And that's sort of like the other one that you're talking about, Fox Farm or one of the other ones.
Yeah,
But
you know what? I think is a really good starter. Has doesn't have much, but Roots Organic. You guys know Roots
Yep.
Organic, that
Oh
green
yeah.
bag.
A
Oh
lot of
It's
yeah.
guys
good for
like that.
starters. I
A
like
lot
it.
of
You know
guys
what?
love that.
It seems
Dude, I
like
can
there's a
get that
lot
from
of perlite in there, but like for starters, that
I bought
shit,
some of that. I bought some of that not that long ago, dude. It's like 6 months ago or so.
I
yeah,
feel like it's just a
that's
little
good.
pricey is my only issue with it, but it
It's
Yeah,
works
pricey,
and it
but you
works
can
well.
go to like Home Depot and find it. If
I hadn't
like
seen it
buy
there, admittedly.
all my grocery stores are
Hypo, yeah, it
closed,
wasn't
dude. All of them are closed. I'd have to order shit online and have it sent to me, or I can go to
right.
the hardware store and fucking buy that, and have something.
No, I'm with that. I got my freaking you told me about getting the city picker at one of the big box stores and I got it there. And I got it from the one that I personally think is better. If you're going to go to one, I'd recommend Home Depot if you're going to go to a big box store locally, because the CEO there does a lot of good things for people with special needs. And I think that's pretty badass. And they profit less because of it. They could cut
They
that
may
out
be
and
they
compete
may
more
be
with Lowe's.
unionized too. Are
But
they unionized? I think they might be
I'm
unionized
not
too.
sure if they are or aren't, but one of my neighbors works there and they treat her well. And so I'm all for it. If a big company, not to say that they're perfect and they've never done any wrong, like there's probably some terrible things that we could get into. And again, I don't want to get into politics or business or whatever. But if we're just looking for gardening inputs, and all the grow stores are being shut down, and many of them are, so much of this stuff is heavy. Like one of those bags of Roots Organics, it could be a tea or a salt input or something like that, but it's heavy. So shipping it is going to, even at like Amazon,
Dude.
comparing it is going to cost sometimes more on Amazon, which is like usually the cheap option. But like buying like Epsom salts for a bath or buying Epsom salts for your garden, sometimes it's cheaper to go buy it in person because you don't have to have the shipping.
Yeah, but you
And
can't buy everything in person. Like I need to get some pumice rock,
yeah.
and I can't find it anywhere near here. I'm gonna have to order it
I
from
always get that
Building
on Build a
Oil, and
Soil.
yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
cost me like $100. It's gonna cost me more to ship it here than to buy it.
No,
But
they got a cheap option. They got a
I'm gonna
couple cheap
figure it out.
options.
Yeah, I might get a pallet or something. I don't know.
That's what I did. It cost me, I'm trying to remember, it's been like 3 years now when I got my pallet. And I think I ended up paying like 125, 100, at least 100. It was at least 100 for shipping. And just like you said, so what happened was former guest on the show, Full Duplex, I seen what he was using. I direct messaged him and it's like, hey, what I was just asking about it. They sent me a sample and I loved it. Now, to be fair, that's why I got into the BioViz, was because I tried Spartan. I tried doing it just by itself, standalone, and I ran into my plants were nutrient deficient in less than a month. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. But
Yeah.
as a base and something that you want to have that you can fertilize much less. So you could probably give it like get away. I've done it, eat lazily and also experimentally, just giving my plants nitrogen instead of doing like every other or doing it like every like 1 out of 3 waterings. I'll only go once every 7, 8, 9 days sometimes, and I don't before I start to notice anything being a little yellow. So, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend using Bio365 standalone.
Stuff like Brandon's humate fertilizers and microbes and other amendments can really help, I think, extending the life of some of those non-standalone soils in terms of, making stuff available that's already there that might be seeming like it's not, but it just needs the right. His Micro Plus is like one of my favorites because I've had soils I know this is a good soil. Like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
Maybe the water I was using wasn't great. Maybe the pH was a little bit off or something, but throwing that right little microbe mix in there, it just everything snapped right back into place and everything's greened up again. Or maybe a little bit of aminos, like Amino N Plus is another one I like from him. That's not on the humate side. He has like that's a powder based one. And you can foliar it. I usually just feed it in with a little bit of water and see pretty rapid results. So there's so many good options out there. Like even on
I
the
said,
hydro
as I'm
side, like
sitting, you could go in my grow right now. You'd see all 3 of the humate fertilizers. Those are my, oh shit, fucking something is deficient and I need something fast. Those are my, oh shit. It's not something I feed all the time. That's not a thing. It's maybe twice in their life they might get hit, and usually in flower. And then, they might get hit in veg. They might get hit 3 times. They might get hit in veg with the nitrogen one right before they flip. And then, but with the soil I use, if you get a good, I have M3 base on most of them, I would say, but I would use build a soil 3.0. And if you get a good base soil that you can reuse, it's life-changing as a soil grower to not have to empty your fucking pots, to be able to just throw some fucking reamendments on top, water that shit in and fucking plant and go. That's fucking life-changing, man. It's like the sip container life-changing than watering to me. It was another life-changing thing. But
I bought a
shit.
tarp to re-amend soils back when I was growing in pots because I'd dump them out, smash it around, and then
Oh,
I'd
such a
re-amend
pain.
it.
Just the
And
shit you're breathing as you're doing
the
all that.
dust and everything going yeah, and it's just a mess. And you inevitably spill some off the side of the tarp, and you got to sweep it up and this and that. Pain in the butt. Like what you're saying, I kind of just like salt bay that shit. You give me a little re-amend recipe. I have my own little things I add in there from
Yeah.
Brandon and otherwise. But that in the sip container is like ultimate. As easy mode as you can get in terms of growing. And I think it was Seed Person One who said, "How's the garden going, Jack?" And thankfully, because I try to make it easy on myself and do what's worked for me in the past, other than the light situation I had early on, which I kind of gave my first seedlings a little bit too much light because initially I gave too little. They started getting lanky, and then I turned it up a little bit too much, and then I got a little bit of a leaf burnage there. Since I dialed that back down, got it into the proper range, everything's super happy. They're vegging along swell. Even the Death Star and the GG4, which I have in the cabinet underneath with these lights that I'd never grown with before, are vegging super strong. I'm about to either, I think I'm going to top them first and then transplant them into like 1 gallon easy swap pots, which are really like 2 gallons. So those will have a little bit larger root space. I'm going to get them as big as possible and start bending them and turning them and twisting them so I can get a shit ton of cuts off of them because I want to take way more cuts than I need and be very generous with them and all the people that want and have asked for 'em. I think you said you and Baked were interested over at the Trichome Forge in the Death Star and ATG
Absolutely the
Acres
Death
as well.
Star.
Got a few people in the DMs who were like, "Oh, you've got the Death Star. Can I get a cut?" And I'm like, "It's not rooted just yet. Like I just got the cut myself." So mine is starting to grow roots and it's doubled in height or more at this point, which is a really good sign. It's happy, healthy. Leaves are green, lush. I'm doing the very old school, simple pick up every single pot every single day, multiple times a day because they're still in solos.
Oh yeah.
And they're all drinking at different rates, depending on the distance to the fan, positioning under the light. With all new seeds, that to me is the best way. I have a little bamboo skewer that if I'm like kind of in between, I'm like, is this one light enough? I'll stick that in there on like the very side of the pot. And if it comes out and it's looking kind of muddy, then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna give them water yet. But if it comes out and it's like, oh man, there's barely anything on this, I'm like, definitely needs to get water pretty
That's
soon.
why I like the clear cup trick. You pull it out and you just look, you're like, yeah, that looks fucking moist still. It's dark. I'm not fucking watering this shit. Put it back in the fucking
I
solid.
do have the clear cups, but even
Okay.
then I'm like, I
Oh,
still
just you're still questioning. Okay.
I'm neurotic. I'll go to the point of like I want them to almost droop at least once early on, like at each stage in each pot. I want them to at least have a point where they're like, I'll like can I water them tonight? And I'm like, can I make it till tomorrow morning? I'll wait till
Jackson was
tomorrow
like,
morning.
"How thirsty are you? Tell me how thirsty you are." He's
I
not
gotta
giving a fuck.
make sure they can handle it, man. They
Make
can't
it
be no
work a
soft
little,
plants.
huh, Jack? Make it work a little.
Dude, I watched I don't love the everything about this company, but their videos imprinted in my mind early because this was back in the early era, like way before any of the podcasts, any of the cannabis media. Greenhouse Seed Company used to put out these videos like, hey, here's our whatever strain.
I
And then they'd
watched
show it.
all of those fucking videos too, dude. Those are awesome videos. Shout out to them for that.
Yeah, I've
Oh
seen.
man,
I
him and
watched Franco.
Franco
Yep.
Yes.
and
And
RIP
then
Franco.
as the stage of the plant growth and pictures, so you could see it, and it was spinning, so you could see the whole plant.
Ariane, they'd have it like a cocoa, they'd have like a hydro one and then a soil one. But I remember in flower, like they'd be like, okay, we're at like week 3 or whatever, and like we let it dry out really light, and then they'd pick it up. They'd pick up this big, massive pot, and this is huge ass plant. They're like, look at how light it is. We let it dry out. And ever since then, I'm like, I've always loved that kind of at least a couple times in flower, I limit myself to twice. Like I try not to do it during the stretch. I want to get the plants as big and productive as possible, but I'll go week 7 or 8 and then right before harvest is my preferred. But in veg and any of the pots, whether it's the solo cup, whether it's the 1 gallon, I want to have them because I think it also like Menadopes talked about it, many others have talked about it, kind of make the roots reach to the edges of the pot. Use all that water. Start looking around because you keep on giving them a little bit of water every day, just right at the top. Like I've seen people that put like a little ring or spritz right at the very top. Like the roots are just going to hang out up there, right where you're giving them water, and they're never going to want to colonize the bottom if you never water all the way through. And so I think it's a balance, especially in before you're in sips, to try and figure out exactly how much and when to water. But admittedly, I will give myself a little bit of a pat on the back. It is not quite like riding a bike, but I've picked it back up pretty successfully. And the new tent, new not all new equipment, but a lot of new equipment that's working as it should, is nice. And I think this is part of the reason a lot of first time growers actually knock it out of the park is everything when you buy brand new, everything for the most part, it's just like everything's clean, everything's
And
working as
clean,
it
yeah.
should. So it's like, well, this is a fresh start and things are just kicking ass. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and knock on wood, but I'm very grateful and thankful. And admittedly, I'm doing the work. My cat actually, because I got really exhausted last night, she reminded me that I didn't check on the plants. And she meowed loudly right next to the plants. And next to the ones that she
Awesome.
meowed, I opened it up and sure enough, one of them needed to be watered. So I was like, damn, she's on it. She's letting me know. So it's
Most
funny.
cats
They
just
love
want
to
to
see the
eat the
garden.
plants, so that's awesome that your plants help.
Wow.
Cats fucking helping, man. That's badass.
For sure, for sure. And I
So
just
how
realized
many
we hit the
plants
one
you?
hour mark,
Oh wait,
and
Noah's
Noah
got.
the grower is,
Yeah,
I think,
no.
going to only be with us for the
There you
first hour. So I'm
go.
going to pass it over to Noah.
Yeah, sorry to be out of here quick, but my granddaughter is here, my son is here. We're getting ready to watch the late game on the in the NFL here, but I just wanted to get on,
Oh,
hang out with you guys for a little bit. One thing I was just listening, and I use that method, Jack, of picking up the pots very religiously myself, even with the bigger pots,
me
just
too.
because especially I've been surprised. I'll see a plant, I'm like, oh, it looks needs water. Pick it up, it's heavy, it doesn't. A hippie buddy of mine showed me that towards the beginning, so that trick has stayed with me for a long time, and some of that old school stuff really works. But yeah, I'm Noah the Grower. I'll see everybody next week. You guys have a good.
Thanks for
Thank
hanging
you so
out
much
with
for
us,
joining us,
man.
Noah.
Good hearing you, Noah.
Yeah, I'm still doing that at the Trichome Forge, walking down and picking up every fucking pot, and deciding how much I'm going to water. Because sometimes it might not just be water or not water. It might be water or half water, or water in a little bit more than what I'm going to water. Like, when what I mean by that is maybe I'm looking to normal water is 2,000 milliliters, a half water is 1,000 milliliters, and then I watered a fucking GMO today. Took 3,000 milliliters, and how did I know when enough was enough? Was first I picked it up and it was dry as a bone, so I'm like, I know it's going to be at least 2,000. And then two, I'm watering cocoa, and this was over at the Trichome Forge, and I'm just watering a little at a time, like 1,000 milliliters at a
Mhm.
time, and waiting to look and watch for runoff, watch for something to come dripping out of the bottom. I'm not just watering it and just a certain number and that's good. No, man. No. Yeah. You want to get like 10% runoff. I might not hit 10% runoff every time, but I'm looking to see some fucking drip action, man. It can't just be little drip. I want
Make
some
sure
drip
it's
coming out of it.
saturated. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
because in
know, the
my head,
plant's
and
sucking
in
up
my
some of
mind,
it. The
I'm
roots are
flushing
gonna,
it.
yeah.
In my mind, I'm flushing it. I'm flushing it. I'm adding more salts, yes, but I'm replacing it. It's a sponge in my head.
Oh, there
So
you go. Okay.
I'm emptying the sponge and I'm replacing it with what I just measured and just measured with my equipment to be 100% right. You know?
Yeah, I
And
think the roots suck up like when it's really dry like that. You start watering. I think the roots like absorb a lot of that water straight away as soon as they can.
oh, they
So
do.
that's
And I'm
another reason, yeah, why you want to add even more than capacity because some of it's going to get sucked up right by the plant. Sometimes you could see the plant like actually perk up while you're waiting for it to absorb it.
and there's a danger of depending on how much you've been feeding, is if in a cocoa media, especially if you let it dry out, the salts that are
Built
left,
up. Hmm.
you like you're saying, it pulls up all the water, but sometimes it leaves salt behind.
Yeah,
So you come back in with salty water, and that salt dissolves into that salty water, and the plant is thirsty, and it sucks up that now extremely
double
salty
salt.
water. You'll
Uh-huh.
come in the next day, and that plant will have burnt tips, and you'll be like, "What the
Burnt
fuck did I do? I
left,
gave it the
right?
same
Sometimes
water as I always do."
it couldn't even suck up the water because there's so much salt in there that it actually gets blocked out, which a lot of people are like, how I have nutrient deficiency even though I'm at 2.5 EC. And
And you
like you don't
go
have
in the
nutrient
next day.
deficiency,
Yeah,
you're
you go
locked
in the
out.
next day and it's heavy. You're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Why is it not drinking? And you're like, what the hell happened?
They don't like hon- I know that some regiments, like I think Jungle Boys and a few others, preach really high EC, and they run in Rockwell at like 3 or 4, even 5, which is like incredibly, incredibly high. Dr. MJ recommends 1.5, like on the high end, like 1.1 to 1.2 early, and like working up to like 1.5, 1.6, and like never getting over 2. And some plants are really heavy feeders and might need to get up to like that too. But if you're above 2, I think there's probably other stuff that's not dialed in, pH, temperature, humidity, etc.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why the weed from the dispensaries tastes like shit. In my
Yeah,
exactly.
opinion, that's probably
Cardboard
mostly the
turds.
reason. It's because of the nutrient over nutrient, and they never really
yeah. You
do
think
anything
of
about it. Their
I
whole
know
thing
guys who
is
did it.
to make as much as they can. I mean, that's like that's their whole gig
they are
is
to
It's
think
funny
about
because it's
they are to
counterproductive. They
think
spend
about make
more.
them much as they can, but nutrient cost is a fucking drop in the bucket to the cost that they put.
right.
So if they have to pay a little bit more for a nutrient, they don't give a fuck about that.
Well, they
I
don't
know,
even
but
see
if
it
they're
because
fucking up
the
the
mistake.
taste and the
If they cared
flavor,
about that,
yeah,
they wouldn't be paying for the fucking all this fucking stupid bullshit
that's
on the
true
market.
too. You're right. But I was gonna say, yo, a cat or a dog or a grow animal is a great idea. I think we should start training some monkeys and let us know when the plant's getting a little dry.
Dude, they were like my signal, like the canary in
That
the
is
coal mine.
cool. That was a
Oh,
cool
they'd
little
have that
tale.
stuff. They have that stuff. It's all computerized now. They have sensors. They got
Right,
pressure
right.
sensors and monitors and all kinds of
You know,
stuff.
they have sensors in
Talented.
cars too. The other day I was using my backup sensors in my backup camera, and sometimes when it's like right when it turns on, there's a little bit of lag. I used to use the mirrors, which are almost instantaneous because of the speed
Real
of light.
time.
Real
Yeah.
time, right? And I wouldn't trust the little beep 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 or whatever. And I like it did the loud beep right at the very last second, and it might have even auto braked, but it was just at the last second. I like rocked and like I bumped this car behind me because I trusted the
Oh,
sensor. And you know what? Fortunately, no damage done to either car. I still got out, took photos, and left my information. And there was some crazy person there who was like trying to think
you
I
can't
was doing like
leave,
a
right?
hit and run type thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna make a police report on my fucking self so I don't get like a hit and run charge on this. And the cops came and they're like, there's no damage to either car. Like you left your information. We tried to contact the person, like you're all in the clear. The
The
person ended up
person
like
probably
moving the
didn't have
car.
insurance, you know?
Their car actually was already damaged. So like I didn't
Yeah.
want to get on the hook for like all the other damage on the front end
Oh,
of their
that's a
car.
good point. Protect yourself from that shit, right?
So, I'm above board. I play by the fucking rules if I can. Like I don't want to just go breaking laws for no reason. And in that
Uh,
case, it's like I have my insurance, I'm covered. Like if I needed to make a claim and
Sometimes that's fun, man. I do that. Just
but
break
yeah,
laws for no reason, just because.
I'm not saying that some aren't like that. Like especially if you're in a state where cannabis is illegal, that's definitely I think if a law
Hell,
is
yo, how
unjust,
about you?
civil
Speaking of
Canada
disobedience.
which,
made it illegal to go walking in the woods. Like, what the? Canada is, yeah, all right. Don't get me started on side note over here because
Oh,
the whole
I could
world is
really tear into
batshit
Canada.
crazy, dude.
I,
I feel
Canada,
sorry for
Europe,
my brothers
France,
and sisters in Canada
UK.
and the UK for a lot of
Goodness.
the shit
But
they're
yeah,
going through.
that's,
But we have our own shit.
yeah, we do. But Nova Scotia's like, yeah, if you go in the woods, we're going to fine you $25,000.
They're trying to
people
tell
are
people you can't even protect yourself in your own fucking home, which that to me is
right.
just like
You
So
see
how
common
much
that?
do you
sense.
Oh, if
how much do
somebody
you
comes
find
to hurt you
if
and
you
your
go to the
family,
edge of the woods
do
and
what they
start
say.
chopping down trees? How much do they charge fine you for that?
Right, that
'Cause then you're
nothing,
not in
right?
the
You
woods
just
anymore
cut
because the
down the
tree's not
forest.
there. You
Look, they'll
just
start
keep
charging
cutting
you
the
for chopping the
edge.
wood.
Jeez.
Keep cutting the edge. You're like, I'm not in the forest, man. There's no trees.
Let's be honest, dude. Most police, at least like where I'm from in Ohio, if you went into the woods, they stop the pursuit. It's too risky. There could be people setting up and
Right,
and
it could be
waiting
an
to ambush
ambush.
them.
Yeah.
So as soon as we got to the woods, it's like you're home free.
That's so
So whenever my
funny.
friends ran from the cops, they basically just hit the woods.
So it's
And
exactly like the medieval times. Ooh, don't go in the scary woods.
but for real, man, if you look at the statistics, I mean, the departments around us, I think we're going based off of that's like a very it's a death trap, dude. It's a not a safe space for people that are they have a tough job. I know a lot of people in this
Especially if you
industry do
can't
not love them.
identify what mushrooms to eat. That's a death trap for sure.
Oh man, or a really good time if you get the right
Right,
ones.
we're really on the
Going
side.
off the rails here.
Yeah.
Hey,
I want to get
But
back a
I'm
little.
glad to be an American.
speaking of laws and everything though, in 2 days, right? What are we in the seventh now? Yeah. So in 2 days on the ninth at high noon. Yeah, I said high noon at the state capitol, Michigan State Capitol. You can join me and the Michigan Weedsters and for the Freedom Rally up there. And it's gonna run through till 4:20. There'll be a lot of speakers and I think they have a couple bit different bands, and they'll have booths set up. There's a they call it the Capitol Cup. It's on off the off grounds, but they announce the winners there. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I like to. My tradition is to happily smoke right there on the Capitol steps, or and anywhere on the Capitol grounds, just to I don't know show that I should be able to exercise that right. So I do that, and if you follow a little bit of the Constitution as the citizen of the United States of America, if you think there's a law that is unjust, it is almost your, I think the best words to say is your duty to not follow that law. So I'll be there exercising that right in like 2 days.
Good stuff. A little
Bro,
civil disobedience goes a long way.
I just watched an IG clip either yesterday or today, or the dude was across the way from a police station, and he had a bong, and he was looking like he was doing bong hits. He had a smoke machine in the back seat. He had all this marijuana paraphernalia and shit, and he knew the cops. So the cops come out, like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Well, it's 420. They said they could smoke weed or whatever. I do whatever I want. It's 420." They're like, "No, you can't." And so they start messing with him. They're like, "You, what are you on drugs?" They're like, "Yeah, you're high." The cops like tell him, "Yeah, you're high." And it was all set. He didn't have any weed whatsoever. The bong had no. It was totally clean. It was just a smoke thing in the back. And like, yeah, they didn't give him any hassle, but they were like, "Yeah, you can't do that though." But
There was a dude who did that with a fake grow house. He was like a former cop who used to bust grow houses, and he realized how corrupt a lot of the raids were. So he set up fake grow houses for them to raid, and then said that they did it illegally and went through how they kind of got warrants without necessarily having actual probable cause, and ended up raiding this house. And it was basically like he had a camera crew setting up like
did
you
he,
guys just raided an empty house. So
was he able to sue him for anything? Because
I
like,
think he ended up winning the case.
the green grows guy. What's his name? The
Uh,
cops came visit him. He's growing vegetables all in his
Oh,
house.
growing your
John
greens, John
Yeah,
Kohler.
John Kohler,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I know he's not like that, and not for anything. You
No, because
shouldn't
he
be like
claims
that.
when he claims when he juices the leaves, he gets high and he can't
He
drink
did.
it.
Yeah, that's a
I
little.
know that was hilarious.
Who knows,
It's
man?
awesome.
Like, who knows? But my point being is, he probably could have sued him for hassling him for some reason, right?
If they break your stuff, like in Afro Man's case, they broke into his
It depends
house,
on, I mean,
they took some of his cash,
they have
they
to, they have
destroyed his
proof.
security system,
If they had a warrant to get into his house, they had sufficient proof to send a
Okay, yeah.
judge.
Then he had no problem, right?
and
I
they
guess
probably did have a
right.
warrant because he probably
I'm
had grow
sure they
lights
did.
showing, which the neighbor probably called and complained. There's some purple light. It looks like they're growing cannabis in their
He should just got into his
spare
Speedo and just,
bathroom.
he should just, he's got a Speedo, right? So you should get him in a Speedo and he should have just danced under that light when they showed up. Be like, yo, this is like red healing light, man. What are you doing? I'm just,
You can use them for anything. It's like if you have a landlord come over and you got a grow tent, as long as you don't open up the grow tent, you could be growing tomatoes or microgreens in
true.
there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A little
Or
plausible
herbs.
deniability goes a long way.
or healing herbs, you know.
That's the
That's
sex
true.
dungeon, landlord. That's what me and the wife would get crazy in there.
But don't
Me and the girlfriend, or me and the
be
Kim.
just be prepared for him wanting to join in.
There you go.
That's
Be
the kind of
careful, be
world we live
aware.
in.
You could go with a little less kinky and say, I have claustrophobia and I close
What was
myself in there
that was like a
for
Seinfeld episode.
gradual exposure therapy.
George is like, I know how to get rid of this girlfriend. I don't want it anymore. I'd be like, I want a threesome. She's like, really? She's like, yeah, that could be interesting.
She was way more into it. I
Right,
remember
way
that.
more into it than he was. He's like, oh no.
Good old Seinfeld. But back to the garden
Yeah,
talk.
okay. Sorry.
Uh, we were talking about doing experiments within your garden, and I'm curious how it sounds like you are a little bit at a shutdown right now, but have you done any experiments in the past recently, and how did they go, if so?
Well, yeah, the one got interrupted, and I'm so upset about it too because the guys from BioAg had that funky fungus that grew. They've somehow, it's a real long story how they found out about it, but apparently some cuttings got contaminated with a fungus, and the plants that were nearest the fungus grew exceptionally well. So, and it was from the volatile organic compounds, basically the odor, I guess, the terpenes that were coming off the fungus somehow made the plants grow better. And I had samples of the fungus, and I had them in my my cloning and my grow tent. I was seeing if I could notice a difference, and that was right before I got I moved, so I didn't get to really finish out the plants or even finish the experiment. But
Did you
and I
notice the fungus like growing or anything? Was
well,
it
it's like I have pictures. It was in a container. It was in like a little what would look like a Chinese food uh drop soup container with holes in the top.
so you just need the VOCs from that. You
Yep,
don't need
right.
it to actually colonize the roots or anything like that.
Exactly. It was in a
Okay.
container. You just had to put it near the plants, and supposedly that's would make the difference.
Do
And
we know if the conditions of where they were doing this were, because I would be concerned like in a
it was
cannabis,
so
we exchange that air so much. Like,
right. Well, I
does
put it
that,
actually in the domes of my cloner.
oh, okay, there you
So
go.
that's one thing that I did, right? Which would be a great place to lock them in and we do a true experiment and have one without it. But like I said, I
Yeah.
didn't get to finish all the way, and they were pretty. They did seem pretty similar. The ones that did have it in there, it seemed to have roots coming out like a little bit quicker, like a day quicker, but nothing that I could like totally tell. Um, but yeah, it's interesting, and we talked about it on we talked about it on here that stuff once at least. But it was like an accident. They thought the shit was contaminated, and then ended up being that it was the opposite. It was actually beneficial to the growth of plants. So it was bizarre how they stumbled upon it.
I'd wonder if once it was inoculated, even with just like the aroma being nearby, if it was something that carried with the
Like
plant
lasted, right? Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
if it
That's
needed
what's
to be
another thing.
constantly present.
And then, yeah, I haven't really heard much updates on that particular thing from them, but they were going to bring it, try and figure out how they could like have it brought to the masses at a good cost.
It doesn't surprise me because when I was doing my initial research on terpenes, this several years ago, when I first figured out even what a terpene is, it basically was some of the borderline, like early or foundational research about plants in general, not just cannabis, described terpenes as sort of a signal molecule. So if like you're in a lavender field and a group of locusts come start swarming and eating the plant, then the other half of the field doesn't want to just sit there and die with no fight. So the ones that are being eaten alive kind of start putting off, oh shit, I'm being eaten. So maybe produce more linalool or whatever and get terpier to prevent yourself from being eaten. And that is like a natural pesticide. So the one part of the crop that gets eaten triggers the rest of the crop to start pumping as much pesticide off as possible to ward away any of the rest of the pests that they can potentially fight off if they haven't already developed some sort of natural immunity or resistance. But that is one of the kind of basic foundational things that it's happening. Like there's
So
other ways plants can
wait,
communicate
Jack,
in the soil.
just pause what you said right there. With that, if we say that is true, which I agree with you, then would that not also apply to say, well, that's a reason why I want a leaf strip, and this is a controversial subject, but I want a leaf strip, or I want a leaf strip in flower specifically, because then the the counter argument is, well, those leaves that you're removing could be used to produce energy, right? Sugars in the plants from and make way more terpenes but is that so? I wonder, have we ever done that experiment? Is that so? Is that much stress, put that plant into a higher gear per se? I don't know. I think it is probably more detrimental when you remove a certain amount of leaves, but maybe one, two leaves. Maybe we should be biting a blade or two off.
Dude, there was a guy called Savage DWC who used to put fucking Lego Man through the middle of his plants. He would do
I
the
remember that.
craziest.
Yeah,
He would put like
dude.
rocks and he would like saw them in half and like put like metal bolts through them. And like he took put a pin or a needle or a nail in the, stem to the next level. So I would
Yeah.
love to maybe have him on if we could get a hold of him sometime. And but yeah, I know he's in one of those countries that doesn't have the freedom to come on and share. But Tal, what are we looking at here with the
So
photos that
yeah,
you're
this
showing?
is this is the what that fungus is in this container right there.
Oh, I see.
And you see
So
how
it's
there's that like little port right there?
Oh,
yep.
yep. Like a
So
pressure
yeah, like
ball.
I had it in my dome with some cuttings and some seedlings. That was there something else. And then yeah, here I show it in there. It's in with them. And then
So
yeah,
you're
I
just
think
letting that fungus fart on your plants and
that's
then
it. I know you can see that it got roots, and this is the one that had it in there. I'll start. Yeah, that wasn't even. Oh, there's a couple more. Yeah, and I had some with seedlings that I had it right next to too. That they all look green and happy, but like, yeah, it was too. They were too young to tell if there was a real difference or not.
yeah, you'd
I
want to
guess you could
see.
always grow danker weed, but I'm really not like disappointed with the quality of terps and flavor that I get from like my M3 slash Build a Soil slash Bokashi Earthworks blend of goodies that I mix together.
Yeah,
And
the
yeah,
fermented soil.
and they were talking how it ended up drying out. The stuff in that container ended up drying out. I'm sure it's dead now, but they
In
were like,
the fungus container,
yeah, yep.
you could probably just re-moisten it then. It
That's what
probably
they were
just sport
saying.
up.
They were going to make standard operating procedure. You stick a needle in there, add some moisture, maybe a nutrient solution, and have that thing keep going for an extended period of time. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm wondering. I have to look into what progress they made on that. But yeah, that was the only experimentations I had at any time recently.
that's a cool one.
Yeah, I was all excited, and then I got my hopes and dreams ripped apart.
How did you get that? You just like
Well,
Googled it?
they asked people if who would try and have the capacity to do it, and I feel so
Oh,
bad that I
cool.
couldn't complete the task. But they were like, they're so understanding too. They're like, yeah, we knew there'd be a lot of dropouts and situations come up and this and that. I'm like,
In
I
science,
feel
they call
real
it
bad.
attrition. It's just part
Mm,
of the study. The X amount
yeah,
of people through attrition fall out of the study.
that's not part of my attrition, dude. When I say something I'm going to do, I end up doing it, and when I don't do it, it really makes me not feel good. But
You're a
being
person of your
said,
word,
yeah,
though. That's a good thing. You're
yeah,
used to upkeeping your word, and when you don't, it feels bad. But I think more people should take from Tao's example. Feel bad when you don't hold up your word. Then the world will be a
yeah.
much better place because few people these
You
days
might
actually uphold their word.
you might end up that might be the only thing you have holding your life together at some point. Because like
My
your
dad used
That's
to
money,
say, like,
you can burn, man. If your word is good, you can get back because people will believe that what you say.
that's really all we have as humans, right? Is our word. Because if your word is no good, then what the hell are you? We can't believe a
Yeah,
word you say after that.
your name, like your name means that's why so many people change names so often or disappear and drop off the scene because
Businesses do that on the regular.
yeah, on the regular.
there's businesses that have shell businesses that are literally just different names because
You
it's more marketable in a certain market.
you know somebody's good when you have that phone number from like 10 years ago and you dial it up and they're still answering it. Then you know
Oh
that
yeah.
person's on the right side
I got my
somehow.
same number from like as soon as I got a phone. It's
Me too. Yeah.
I can't even remember how many years at this
Oh
point,
no, actually, I had
over
to
a
get it
decade.
switched when I switched the thing. But yeah,
I always paid to have it ported over. So even like when I switched from this service to that service and then back to that other service, I always
right.
paid the
Keep it.
little extra fee to keep my original number. So anybody out there, if you know Jack Greenstock, you can always call that same fucking number and it's gonna ring me. And I do admittedly have like a Google Voice business phone number because when I was in college and I got a job, one of the things they recommended is like some of the parents of the people that you work with might be a little bit crazy. So give out like this Google Voice number because you can like mute people or like change that number or delete that number a lot easier than your actual number. Because like for the most part, up to that point, I'd only given out my number to like people that I knew or cared about. You know, it wasn't like I didn't grow up in the era where you just, put your number out there to the whole world, but you'd give it to your friends and family or whatever. And because of that. Other than the freaking the I should probably get one of those delete me or some other service because I do get the fucking robocallers, and at least my new phone has an option I can like just decline or like screen, and it'll be like, this is a Google Voice Assistant recording this
Yeah.
call. Do you have anything that you'd like to say? And then most of them just hang up right right away when that thing pops up, and I have been getting
Then you
fewer
can
since that.
add them to the spam list, and you're like, boom, never
Yep.
see them again.
I don't know, man. I've been getting these texts from some middle school on Long Island about in Spanish saying like school updates, and every single time I hit delete or report junk, and like every other day I get another
So,
tweet from them, text
so
rather.
if you
All
still
those
have,
illegitimate kids you talked about on the show in years
No,
past coming
see,
back
the
around
person
for you.
before me who had my phone number must, I don't even know.
so
I don't know, actually. I have
the
no idea.
so the next time you get one, or if you still have one in your phone, just reply in all caps, STOP, stop. And if that doesn't work, find out whatever the Spanish word is for stop, because I don't know off the top of my
All right, I'll
head.
try that actually. I'm about ready to give up because I did it like 100 billion times. Delete and report junk,
Yeah,
and I'm
stop
still getting
usually
them.
it's like an auto thing.
Okay.
Usually auto stops you, but I don't know, it might be you might have to figure out what the Spanish word is.
Um, so yeah, I want them to come up with a baby drone that'll kill all bad bugs in the garden.
Has to specifically be only the bad bugs. Are you a bad
Yes.
bug? Are you a bad bug?
Well, made me think about it was the cat warning us about the plant needs water.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have mosquito-sized drones. All they need is a mosquito-sized machine gun, and then have them differentiate between good bugs and
Machine
bad
gun.
bugs. Yeah, pew pew pew.
I just saw a good old redneck ingenuity. This
That's
guy
gonna make
in
so many jobs too. Just making little machine gun bullets and little machine guns.
There you go. AI is perfect for us.
tiniest little
AI's
bullets
got a goal.
make the bullets out of something that like explodes into like a foliar. So when it hits the bug,
There
it
you go.
splashes down onto the plant.
Make them out of microplastics so then
Nitrous oxide.
we can clean up some microplastics and just shoot them at bad bugs.
But then those microplastics are all over your
End
garden.
up in my plant. Yeah, that's no good.
No, they're in the bad bugs, and then there's another little
A
drone that
vacuum
comes and
cleaner.
just scoops it up
Clean
like
them up.
yeah, just
I,
scoops them up, pulls them out.
I gotta say, I got this product. I might have talked about it on the show already. It's called a bug assault or bug assault. It's a
Oh yeah,
little
that
like
thing is
pump
sweet.
action shotgun that has
Yeah,
salt, and it kills wasps, it kills flies, and mainly for us, we have spiders, and some of them are fucking silver dollar size. And I had to take one out for Lady Greenstock in the garage the other day. So shout out to Bug Assault because that thing, I saw a guy who said he lives in Australia and he uses it on fucking orb weavers, big
that's
ass spiders, and it
insane.
still works. So it gets the job done. I love that thing. Worth every penny.
That shoots those little salt crystals right through those fuckers. Houseflies. Oh, I gotta get me one.
Dude, I
I
had a
saw one.
wasp come in and it was like
Sounds good.
fucking around in this window and it was getting a little aggressive and one quick shot, boom, took care of business. One, I shot a spider the other day and it like landed down on the little handrail on my patio and then it was kind of squirming like, mostly dead, but I wanted to put it out of its misery. Shot it and it went flying like cartoonishly far. Like it flew like off the patio like 20 feet. So it was a pretty comical moment and
Yo.
a lot more fun than trying to smack them with like a flip flop or something.
If you
But
watch the video for that thing on YouTube, just shooting flies, you'll start laugh. I mean, if you don't laugh, then come on.
dude, you guys shouldn't be killing anything. Don't you know the ways of Buddha?
No, but I know that shooting flies is fucking hilarious, especially in slow
Shooting
mo.
flies is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what like yeah. Especially spiders. Spiders are good, man. I take them and I don't kill the spiders. I
They're
put
good
them
until they
I
out.
invade my
will.
home, and then it means
But they
war.
eat. They'll eat the
I'm okay.
flies. You don't
I'm
need a
okay
bug
with
assault. Get the
small spiders.
spiders.
I'm okay with
I can take
spiders,
care of the
small
flies.
ones. I'm not okay with spiders that can bite me because that means in my sleep they're gonna come and see my sweet ass and bite it. And I'm
I
not
get bit, man.
not
They
happy with
fucking do
that.
bite, and they hurt. You get
And
big ass
I'm
bumps.
sorry, I am pretty selfish and protect my fucking home with the death penalty. And I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. They fucking know the rules. I don't fuck with them out there. Don't come into my fucking space though. Get
That's how
that
I feel
Spartan,
too.
get that Spartan kick.
Outside, all of them. It's nature. We are encroaching on their land or space or whatever,
It
but
goes with motherfucking
inside,
mice.
my home.
Goes goes with motherfucking mice too. I hope you're listening. Rats, all of those.
Oh, that's that. Yeah,
My two
rats
cats
and
would make quick
mice is
work.
different.
The last place I lived, there was a guy who had mice, and there was a couple people in my neighborhood that had it. And we never saw him, never had him once because I'm pretty sure they smelled the cats. Just like they
Yeah,
knew they're there. We're
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
go around two giant. One of my cats is 17 pounds, the other one's 12 pounds. And they're athletic as fuck. Like they're muscular and fast and they can jump high as hell. Like they're not just fat cats. Like they'll fuck up an animal.
Not
I've seen
just
one
fat cats.
swipe a fly in half in the middle of the air. It was running full speed, just took its front paw, claw out, sliced the like split it into two. It was
Holy
fucking
shit.
ninja cat, dude.
I would high
that's
five
They
that
pretty cool,
motherfucker after
dude.
that. I'd be
I
like, good
definitely did. I was like,
fucking
hell
job.
yeah. Because it was annoying. Like one of those just like kind of just slow enough to you see it and it annoys you, but just fast enough that you try to swat it and it gets away from you. So
Yes. I have a
man,
fly
that cat,
swatter and it's twice as thick as your normal fly swatter. It will fuck shit up. It's heavy. And
I love it.
I
My
can
one buddy
fucking
taught me.
sometimes I'll kill him in the air, in midair with that motherfucker. It's so heavy. Just if you can hit him hard enough.
Yep. My one friend, he taught me if you want to, instead of trying to swat it like with your hand, you clap it because, and
Yeah.
especially if you
Just
go like
above
this, it
it.
creates like a little vortex above or below. It kind of sucks
Yep.
them in, and you just usually hit it just enough to either take it out right there or
Or at least
stun it
stun
enough
him.
to get it on the ground
Yeah.
and smush it. Because, yeah, I'm with you. Once they get inside my domain, just like my garden, my cannabis garden, I try to keep it pretty immaculate. I don't want what we were talking about earlier with the hydroton, like fungus gnats. I'm in organic soil that I'm mixing myself or not kind of amending myself and top dressing with. In this case, I'm using rice hulls. I haven't had a single fungus gnat, and the soil mix I'm in is pretty well amended with a lot of different stuff that those types of soils tend to. I know a lot of organic guys who get fungus gnats right out of the bag, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
whether that's the grow store or the inputs, I'm not sure, but it tends to happen. But I do think once you get the product, I try to let it dry out as much as possible before I start to use it. Then I hydrate it myself when it's ready to be hydrated, and then just being diligent to not overwater. It's so easy. Like Noah said, sometimes we go like 7 days, maybe even 10 days in organic. Sometimes if the conditions are right or wrong, it might be a longer time than you expect between watering.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like I was coming from cocoa, where you're at least watering once a day, and you could get away with watering. I don't know. Doc, I think said he used to do like 15, maybe 20 times a day in some circumstances, but I think like five on the minimum for him and his setup. So lots of water moving through with no real issue or penalty. And if I would have tried to do that in like peat or soil,
It'd be
your
so
plant would
bad.
just be wilted and floppy and molded and dead. You'd have, you know, pythium wilt and all these other funguses and molds, and it's just not going to happen in a really rich peat-based soil. Like you can't water it multiple times a day. Even like every other day is probably too much, depending on the pot you're in and the plant size. So I think it's usually every, few days. And also the weather. If it's super hot in the middle of the summer, that's different than wintertime. So the plant might use a little bit more if it is hotter and drier than if it's hotter and humid.
Or what it's doing, like a plant week 4 of flower is going to be sucking up 4. Week 5 is going to be sucking up probably the most water that it's going to in its life. And that might be double what you're used to. Um, so, and then that's another, like one of those indications when people ask me, when's the time to harvest? Is this? And then they'll send me a trike picture. I'm like, well, what about everything else? And one of those little keys to me is when I see a plant stop drinking as much as it normally does, like my plants in my situation, they're usually drinking a gallon a day in flower. That's pretty common for them. And when it cuts down to where I go in there and it's like, this doesn't need watering. What the hell? I should be drinking today. What the hell's going on? I'm thinking, oh, we're late flower. She's probably done. She's probably saying, you know what?
Winding down.
Yeah, harvest me. So this is one of those little things that I've noticed in my garden.
I noticed that as well as, and also the change in the stigma or pistils and then the senescence of the plant. whether it goes from green to yellow or purple or pink or red. I want to see a color change of some sort, even if it goes from dark green to a lighter green,
And I
like
feel
a
like,
lime green.
have you noticed this as well? I feel like the stigmas, pistils, whatever you want to call them, almost suck into the bud, whether the bud swells around them or they're actually getting pulled in. To me, in my head, it looks like I'm waiting for those fucking things to get sucked in to know that that final push is done.
Yeah, if they're straight and white, you're not ready to harvest. And I've seen some people like, well, the breeder says this is a 70 day or 60 day or whatever. And the plant is obviously not done in my perspective. You can harvest it then, but it's like very rare steak or something. Like some people might prefer it a little bit zippier or whatever, but I think for the first time around, it's probably good to grow and at least till maybe half of them are starting to turn orange and like you're saying, like kind of curl in or get even drawn with into the bud. And the it is tough because sometimes late in flower, the buds incrementally swell out when you're used to them like, growing several inches a day during the stretch. When they finally get to start bulking, it's like, well, it was this big yesterday and now it's that big, and then that big, and then that big. And then like it's really tough to see the differences at the very end as it just continues. They might be packing on extra grams. I think early harvest can cut your harvest weight significantly
Yeah,
because
and I'm convinced that density can come at the end too. You could have one that's relatively loose until the end and all of a sudden denses up, especially if you play with stuff. Like
The
I
light.
like I like light, I like flower. I like I mean not flower, I like blue light at the end to help with that.
drop out the reds
Yep.
and dense it up. I think that's smart. And there's a lot of people that have kind of done similar things. Like people would swap out for like a 10K bulb, and there's lots of different people were dropping reds just generally. For I think there's been some research that kind of pointed to that in recent times. We might have even covered it on past shows, but I think whatever you do, I think dimming it even the last couple of weeks can be a beneficial thing for increasing maybe a little bit of the flavor profile. I don't think you're going to lose a ton of yield by
I
dropping the
agree
light
with
back.
you, and that's why I don't understand. I'm hearing more and more questions, at least coming to me, about doing the opposite and like increasing light cycles at the end because they know they're not
Like
going to turn
18.6 because it won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But
And I'm like, I don't
for
know. For quality, I don't see that increasing quality. I think that would, if you're looking at quality only, if you're looking at quantity, that's maybe a different conversation. But if you're looking at quality, how can you tell me by adding more light, which we know degrades, um, well, degrades the
aroma
trichomes.
terpenes,
We'll just say trichomes, which encompasses all the shit. So we know light is one of the things that degrades them. We know, time, and we know temperature.
heat.
Exactly. So we're hitting two of those things at least by increasing the light cycle at the end. So it's a hard argument for me. Maybe there's a test out there where people did, a side by side, but it's a hard sell to me. I'd be really hard sold to do that. And plus, you're increasing my cost now too.
Whenever somebody tells me that, they're usually talking about Rasta Jeff, and I respect Rasta Jeff
Mhm.
a great deal, but he's making seeds and he's also talking about re-vegging plants a lot of the time. And so he takes those seeded plants, puts them on to, 18.6 or whatever for the last few weeks of flower while they're completely impregnated with seed. So he's going to run them further than you would for a typical flower harvest, as I do when I make my seeds as well, because you want them to be as developed as possible. You want as much of a dark, rich tiger stripe seed as you can. And the earlier you harvest, the more likely you're going to have a good amount of white, underdeveloped seed, even if they might sprout. A lot of people just don't want it. And many of them are genuinely not good. They're going to be easy to crush between your fingers and they're not going to sprout. And I eat seeds. So I usually eat the white ones first because nobody wants them. So I'll just eat them. And I could tell between like a completely underdeveloped one because it's almost like a hollow shell and it just pops versus one that was like almost halfway there and it kind of has a little bit of a flavor to it. So it's interesting to be able to learn the little different developed natures of the
Well,
seed. And the further you push it, you're going to get more
well, let
deeply
me
developed
ask
stuff,
you
but you can
guys
go too
this.
far.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this. Consider you're growing for resin. You're collecting or rosin, whatever. You're collecting for you just the heads. You're collecting heads is what you're looking for. So not the plant material. Do you feel like under a longer light cycle, would you create more cannabinoids at that point? Would you create more rosin to be collected? I could see that being an argument. and then maybe your end result if
It
you're
might swell them.
processing.
Yeah, it might swell them up, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah,
your
yeah.
end result is your end result. If your end result is you're not going to be flour, and you're going all to some kind of concentrate with that longer light cycle, but then you're going to be degrading terpenes, you would think, because of the light exposure and the heat. But volume wise, do you think you'd get more of it?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I don't know.
I
That's
would rather
interesting
have
to
hard
think
quality
about.
than quantity, and
Oh,
that's why
me
I've
too.
always
You
been
know
more of a
that.
quality.
Yeah,
But here's the thing, like when we look at autoflowers, those are grown 18 hours basically the whole time. And pretty universally, people would say, if we're just going quality for quality, photoperiods are going to be higher quality. You have to breed the autoflowers up with photoperiod qualities like potency and flavor to make them palatable like they have been in modern years. But even then, many of them are still, unless you grow them perfectly, and even then, I don't think they're gonna be on the same level as a lot of photo periods. They have a place, but doing the photo period, or I should say, autoflower treatment to a photo period in the last few weeks, it almost seems counterintuitive to me for the reasons the Spartan mentioned, but also like, yeah, it might be within the cannabis genome and it can happen, probably because some of that autoflower cousinry, you know, and also I just think like it can't get pollinated super late in flower because it's there's just not enough time for it to develop a seed. So even if it started to try to, the energy is not there. The sexual maturity of the plant is too far gone. So it's just not going to happen. Like if you have a day 66 plant and then a male just comes in and throws pollen all over it, there's not enough time between day 66 and day 70 for it to have seed. So it might start to have that process go down, but it's not going to
Re-veg is
actually
most likely.
manifest
Re-veg
as
is
if
the
it would.
most likely situation, I would say. But what does
Right.
that do to just resin? You know, that's another question. What does that do to that kind of a end product? A
And oddly
re-veg
enough, like kind of
situation.
it's not
semi-related,
good.
if you keep a plant on
Good.
18.6, then uh it starts to show pistils. You can actually pollinate it in veg. So another kind of weird related thing to the seed making and the 18-hour time cycles. Because I've seen some people do that. If you don't want to like pollinate a whole
Oh,
room.
good girl.
Um, Tao, you're unmuted, just so you
Oh,
know.
sorry, I'm talking to the doggy.
It's all good. I figured as much. You need to train that dog to start barking when your plants get dry. So work on that.
There you go. I'm gonna start training it tonight.
You know, they have like mice that can smell all sorts of different stuff. And dogs, like I went to college with this guy who had seizures and he had a lab that was trained to smell when he was about to have a seizure and it would like nudge him and like be like, hey dude, sit down or like get off the stairs, you're about to have a seizure. And so I think you could definitely like they know how to smell truffles. They've trained dogs and pigs to smell truffles. So I bet you, like my cat or you know, a dog out there could probably be trained to smell like maybe a certain bacteria that comes about when the soil gets dry or just
A
some
male
sort of
plant and early veg.
that'd be cool.
But
That would be really cool because it wasn't
people
Spar
that
it
have,
was I think it was Brandon maybe talking about that spray where you could like spray it and it would change color underneath like a UV light or a
yeah,
certain type of lighting to show you the sex of the plant. So and I think we looked at the some study about they found like the Hermy trait in cannabis. So they could figure out if a female plant is gonna tend to hold the herm or not. But
interested
I
to
can't
see
remember
what that
exactly what
comes
the
out.
marker was. The ACS1 gene or something, I think, if I remember correctly. But um,
Do you think that
yeah,
would be used for good to eliminate that issue in plants, or do you think it'll be used to like splice genes in and be like, oh,
I think it's going to be used to try and eliminate it. But just like when they eliminated THC from CBD plants to make hemp through like mutagenic processes,
right, right.
they became susceptible to like all sorts of molds and mildews that they weren't previously being taken out by. And so I'm of the fundamental belief that like nature kind of got some things right and like certain parts of the cannabis plant have a lot of really good things together. And so if you just start to take some of it away, you can have unforeseen consequences like that, where you take the THC out and all of a sudden now you don't have the resistance to powdery mildew. And
So do
so
you think there's value in breeding like a high CBD cultivar back into a THC cultivar to try to get a
for
fuller
sure.
spectrum, like a 1-to-1 or
Oh,
whatever?
100%. I think that's like they're paintbrushes or you know different swaths or colors that can all be used in harmony with each other. Like they, even if the one eventually doesn't have PM resistance, you can find another one out there that does. It's not like so unique to that thing. I think flavors and certain presentations, like I do find a lot of like the freak show kind of work or some of the different leaf presentations like the duck split to be unique and worth preserving and working with, especially since in a couple of those cases the high is actually pretty good too. So you got a cool looking plant with a solid high. And in the case of like the freak show, I do think it's a little bit more resistant to like molds because the physical structure of it,
Because of that,
because
yeah.
the leaves are so thin, there's more airflow that can get through the plant. And so depending on your environment, that might be a beneficial thing. And one that not many people consider because it is out there, from ABC to duck split to freak show varieties, and more and more are being made still. So it's kind of cool. There really is so much variety. Like if you like the squattiest of squat, broadest of broadest leaf, you can find it. If you want the tallest, lankiest plant that's going to outgrow your grow room and your backyard and your neighbor's yard, you can find that. Look
You
at
want the
the
best of the
Carolina.
best of the best, you can just be like all of us and just keep searching for it. It's fun.
It's a never ending journey because like each year new people start putting out new stuff and then one of those things could be the next GG4, could be the next Chem 91, could be the next OG Kush, and on and on and on, right? There's so many legendary strains at this point, but a lot of them, like in Josie's case, started in a home grower's room, same with like the cookies, and Chem 91. Like these were just, in some cases bag seed pops. And I saw Abolished earlier saying he's been on an old bag seed kick, and I don't blame him. I tried that for a little while, and a bunch of them didn't pop, so I was a little bit disappointed because I fastidiously wrote down every single plant that I got it from, or every single bag that it came from, and the suspected pollinator that might have pollinated it, and was so excited I did a whole bag seed run because I'd went through like a bunch of the stuff that I bought, and I was like, all right, it's time for the bag seed run, and it was like a 0 out of like 12 pop. It's like, oh fuck, that was a big letdown. But again, it goes back to me just thinking like it wasn't meant to be. Those weren't the ones. I've got a bunch of other cool stuff to work with, and move along, work with the cool stuff. Don't cry over spilled milk, you clean up and keep going. It's worth continuing to dig and hunt, even if you've got killer shit. Like I know Spartan, Smiley, Tao, even myself at times, we get killer cuts in our stable and we learn how to grow them well. And we can kind of become a favorite amongst people in some of our circles because we can come with the dank pretty much everywhere we go. And they're like, holy shit, you have a unique variety that smokes really fucking good. I want to smoke some of it with you as much as I can handle before I have to tap out because it's too fucking good compared to the stuff I'm used to. And that's a great feeling to have. And I just think even with that, under your cap, we always still want another one in the circle. It's like you might have orange and lemon and lime, but it's like, well, I want the vanilla, I want the chocolate, I want the blueberry. It's like there's so many flavors out there. Even if you have a great stable of really cool stuff like blueberry with gas or raspberry with gas or this with that, it's a
Even
never
then,
ending.
yeah, even then I want Jacks, I want Taos, I want Noahs, you know what I mean? I want, Doc MJs. I want all of those flavors, for all of those growers because it's all going to be different. And oh, throw Brandon in there too. Can't forget Brandon. Let's smoke all of that too. And it's all going to be great, but it's all going to be a little bit different from each other. And hell yeah, I want to experience that.
That's what it's all about. I mean, the thrill of the hunt, to me, the most exciting times are popping seeds and harvesting. Like right before you're about to get to try it, you've had all this work and time and effort and energy put into it. Obviously, the smoking, the consuming is a lot of fun, but just the general excitement of like, this is something I've never had before. Like, it can keep your life exciting to any age because like if you grow from seed, even if you're growing from clone, you might, like I was talking about earlier, do an experiment. You try this soil versus that soil. You try DWC versus a sip container. And then you find out, oh man, that DWC actually grew some really good flavorful stuff. As much as I love my sip, like I gotta give hats off. Maybe that cut grew better in the DWC. Who knows? Who knows? Right? But you're gonna
Yeah, I'm
find out.
okay. I've already said to Emily, I was like, I'm not gonna just do that. I'll have enough time to get another growing before it gets too hot again. I'll throw something else in there and use the nutrients and do a different cut still a cut that I know that I've grown a lot, like maybe Vortex or Spartan Puke or I don't know. I got a few that I can pick from, all different ones. Maybe Bliss Bud, probably Bliss Bud. So that'll be cool. Yeah, probably Bliss Bud. I've already made my decision.
I do think that every input we use sort of becomes like our terroir. And whether you're growing in TWC or a SIP, even side by side under the same light, the same gardener, you're going to have two different, even if like you had two phenos of a plant that you grew from seed, they're going to taste different almost all the time. Like I've almost never had, three plants and all three of them tasted exactly the same. Sometimes they're in the citrus range, like one's lemon, one's lime, one's a little tangerine. And maybe they're all lemon, but they have like one's a little gassy, one's a little sweet, one's a little whatever. But it's we haven't gotten to the point of genetic stability where every single thing is the same. And it's nice that we can kind of tinker with and play with these different inputs, learn like, oh, I actually like how this one tastes better in DWC. So I'm going to grow that one in DWC and that time of year, and I'll get a nice little supply of it. And it does really well in the winter or it does really well in the summer with the maybe Jack's 321 is the way to go. Maybe it's the GML nutrients. Maybe it's I really liked the Heavy 16. It was a cannabis, I think, targeted nutrient line, but it worked. It worked really well. It grew really good flower. So I was like, it's expensive and not the best route in my opinion with being bottled nutrients. There's lots of plastic and lots of water being purchased. I think
It was
if I was going
unique
to go back
though,
to
and interesting that it was kind of like what people call organic because it had a like a salt-based nutrient, like the basis was salt-based, but all of the extras, all of the supplementals or whatever you call them, those were all organic. So I
you could smell
remember,
it too.
I remember that back in the day that I would go and just snag those extras and not use the bases for my organic grow. And it's like, oh, I'll just get their extras and grab a couple of those to fill holes that I was looking for the day. So yeah, it was cool stuff.
They had some good like silica stuff, some good humic stuff. I think they're fire. It definitely like you could see when you put it in there. It when you're comparing it to a salt-based nutrient or like a synthetic-based nutrient that's almost looking like a chemical, right? Just like a clear liquid. And then you get the fire, which is like an organic input. It's like a sludge. You put that into the mix and it's like this big dark cloud that starts seeping through the water and kind of infecting it in a way. And you mix that in there and it's just like, wow. Theirs was also nice because on the little sheet, I would like take a picture of like this week, that week, whatever. And I'd usually dial it down to like between 50% and like one third because I'd try to give nutrients every single time. And I think I let the dry back a little bit too much, so my EC would creep because I was only usually watering once a day. I probably should have been doing more than once a day. But that being said, I would also give like a compost tea like once a week that I think helped bring the levels down. And or I would go nutrient water because at the time I didn't have a EC meter or ppm meter, so I was just kind of just flying by the seat of my pants and going with the cheap home grow, keep it simple,
Wow,
and it ended up working, man. And
that's some crazy shit.
honestly, I think it teaches you a lot, just because kind of where I started out, I balancing like different DWC systems, you have to really listen to the plant, and when the plant isn't happy, it's like, all right, well, I did something wrong here. Let's take time. I think being brutally honest with yourself is so important in gardening because you might just want to tell yourself like, oh, I'm so good, I'm big bad and this and that. Like I've grown dank before, I know what I'm doing. But if shit starts hitting the fan and not going well, you have to be really honest with yourself. Like, what did I do differently? What did I just add? I think your approach, Barton, when you ask like when you're people you're helping, what did you just do? Did you just change it from one area to a new area? Did you just increase the light? Did you just give it a new input? Like, what was the most recent change? And if there's not a big major one, then it's like getting down to the environment, getting down to what is their actual media? What size pot are they in? Is it too big, too small? Are they getting too much water, too little water? Like there's so many common things, but there's 100 ways to mess up every day. So it's kind of a delicate juggling act at times, as much as it can be like, yeah, we're just growing a weed and you can just let it go, organic soil, water, whatever. It can also be like extremely delicate balances of like stuff that you can't even see. Like my microbial balance is off. I need to get a better microbe mix in there. I need to inoculate with something over, maybe twice a week, right? With like stuff like the if you're trying to fight certain pests. Um,
Or
what's that one that like
something.
crawls up into the bugs and then makes them kind of go crazy? Bavaria bassiana or something like
Bassiana.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, BB.
Yep.
But that
Or
one needs to be
something as
applied pretty often.
crazy, something that would be frustrating to me, for example, is something like you can't see, you're saying, is like a nutrient lockout. Like, no, you're not low on potassium. Your potassium's locked out. That can be frustrating figuring that stupid shit out.
That's one of the hardest things I think most gardeners are quote more on gardeners. They put more onto it thinking like, oh, it's yellow, so it must need more nutrient. Like you'd think like, oh, if my kid's starving, they're gonna start looking like scraggly and weak. Well, the scraggly weak plant is like the yellow one. It's like really almost everybody, if they have an EC meter, I'll ask them just to put some water through it and then tell me what comes out in the runoff. And sometimes I got some crazy numbers, like 3, 4, 6,000, like crazy high ppm or EC. Um, the ppm one is interesting, and Doc made me aware of this, but there's three different ppm meters. There's like a 0.500, a 0.750, and like a point like 110, like 0.100 or something like that. And they all give you different. So like 1,000 ppm is not 1,000 ppm across the board. Like your
Yeah,
1,000 ppm might be different than your 1,000 ppm because you have a different meter. So
that's why
if
I
it
use
has an
EC.
EC, it's usually just converting EC into ppm based on some mathematical translation. But almost all of them are just EC meters. So reading the EC makes more sense. And the number, in my opinion, it's like microsiemens or millisiemens or whatever, which is kind of a funny word. But it's just like if you can remember like 1.1 to 1.6, pretty easy range. And if you keep it in that range, you're going to be pretty much smashing it out with Doc's method. I've seen it work for hundreds, if not thousands of growers at this point across not just like the nutrient line he recommends, but I can just blanket recommend that whether you're using Jax, whether you're using General Hydro, whether you're using whatever I was just talking about, Heavy 16, all of them are going to not want to be given way too much nutrient. They want to be in the right pH ranges and right nutrient element ratio, the NER. All these companies pretty much like Brian 420 PM does a good job. He shows like how much potassium, how much phosphorus, how much nitrogen in each one. And pretty much all of them are like replicating each other. Like the charts could almost overlay. Some of them are vastly different, weirdly enough, but they make up for it, I think, in their side products and additives, etc. So knowing your line is important just because uh, Spartan's line might just be a two-part plus one extra thing, depending on the phase of the cycle. Doesn't mean yours is. Yours might be lacking if
Right.
you're just using a one or two part, right? It might even be pitched as a one part or two part, but ultimately maybe you do a little bit of research, do a little reviews, talk to somebody who's grown with it if you can, or even just go look at the reviews. Somebody might be like, man, the stuff was great for the first month, but then my shit started getting yellow and I needed to add X, Y, and Z for it to work. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad product. It's just buyer beware, know what you're getting going into it, and try and learn those intricacies so that you can grow the best that you can and then start to play around, like we talked about kind of the second half of the show, and experiment. Start to do the side by sides because that's actually how you're going to get better. Sitting around doing the same thing over and over and over, although repetition can create, like I think Bruce Lee said something like, I fear the man who has practiced one punch 10,000 times versus 10,000 punches one time, or maybe it was kicks, but the point stands that if you do something over and over and over, like in basketball, I've shot thousands of free throws. And even though I haven't played basketball for a long time, if I go out to that line, it's the same distance that's always been. I do my little, routine. I look up and I have my thing, and I could still probably shoot 9 out of 10, like 90%, like today after not playing for years and years. And so repetition, I think, is great. You can build in good habits and have things that build success moving forward. But that being said, it's still important to experiment. Keep yourself a little bit on your toes and have a little bit of fun with it.
I agree. You got to keep it like I like how you brought it up a couple times. Like, what experiment was everybody doing, or what's for something new? Because that's what keeps it fun and fresh in the grow room. But it also, not only is it fun, but it could be a happy accident or a happy success to where like, oh, I'm gonna actually invest in a change in my grow now because this was so successful. Um, I mean, a lot of times it might be a crash and burn, but you're only, what are you losing? One plant, you're doing just a little experiment. So don't let that discourage you. You're just like, okay, that doesn't work because I tried that and it burned. So you can't tell me whatever white paper you want to shoot at me. I don't care. I grew that and it didn't do that for me. So I'm not doing that. Um, and then on to the next experiment because like everything in grow is a billion different factors, a billion different experiments you can do. You'll never run out.
And happy accidents are just like Bob Ross in the painting world, in the cannabis
Yeah.
growing world, can be a great thing. Like when I got into drought stressing, I heard about it on Bubbleman's show with the comparing it to lavender, both being similar plants and them having the Mediterranean environment. They'd get late flower drought stress and their lavender produced the most linalool. Linalool is also in cannabis. So I was like, yeah, drought stressing might be a good idea. I should try it late flower. But what actually happened, instead of me planning on doing it, the happy accident was one day I was in like 1 gallon cocoa pots and they dried out much quicker than I was expecting them to in like the summertime or something. And so one of my plants was drooped the fuck out like week 7. And then when I watered it, it bounced back, and that one went from like kind of sandy resin to like super glue, and it just stunk way more than the one right next to it. So I'm like, hmm, I'm gonna let this one drought stress. And same thing. And it wasn't like a day thing because they were both like day 42 of flower or day 50 of flower, whatever it was. And then the one that I hadn't drought stressed yet, same thing, felt really sandy resin, and then it didn't smell as strong. I drought stressed it until it drooped, and then boom, watered it back, and it started stinking. It was like super glow. You touch it, your fingers, you'd have a hard time pulling them apart. It would make a loud kind of smacking sound. And so I was like, damn, this just is like, it proved itself to me in that moment. And then later, Dr. MJ told me about the Guelph study, and it turns out that is like kind of exactly what they did. They w waited till the leaves drooped. And in cocoa, I think it was like 10 days, which at like day 55 or something. But yeah, it's amazing what sometimes
That's
happy
amazing.
accidents
It
can
took
be
10 days
represented.
to dry out. That blows my mind. 10
Dry
days.
out enough. I think it was a big enough pot, and they'd watered their well-watered condition, like they'd given it a certain ratio the entire time, and then they just turned off the drippers until they saw the leaves droop to negative 45. And that's the reference I always go to. And I think it's one that the plant's not, if it gets past that, when it gets like below that 45, when they're like down like this, the plant has a much harder time recovering. If it's like at this point, I think that's you know, a mild drought stress. But yeah, the show it just hit 6 o'clock, so I will pass it to Spartan Grown for final thoughts and shout outs before we wrap it up.
I just want to shout out to everybody listening after the fact and everybody watching and listening now. All my Michigan friends or people who are close by that want to make the drive out to Lansing, Michigan. It'd be great to see you. I will be trying to have, I have already pre-packed some of my seeds, so I'll have some of my seeds on me in my backpack. If I do see you, come up, shake my hand or whatever, maybe fist bump, whatever you want to do. But ask me for seeds because I'll have them on me and I'll be high and forget to give them to you if you don't ask for them. I'll probably push them on you, but if I might forget. Other than that, I'll just say, thanks to everybody who does this show every week with me, Jack, Tao, Noah, and Brandon, and Doc when he's going to come back. I know he is, Matthew, all you guys. Um, much love and keep growing.
Good times always, and definitely looking forward to seeing those guys whenever they jump back in. And I will say, yeah, don't be afraid to go say hi to Spartan. When I was out at the events that I've been at, I had a few people message me, and they're like, "I think I saw you at an event." And they're like, hey, walk up and say hi. You recognize Spartan. You've been watching him for years. So you're probably gonna see his face. He's a taller guy. He'll stand out in the crowd. So make sure to go say hi. Maybe pick up some really fantastic seeds. I'm loving the project V. They're growing really well in veg right now, and they already have a nice smell to them. So I'm super excited about them moving forward. I was talking about how the Death Star and the GG4 also smell really good in veg, which is a great sign. So might be another diamond in the making. So I'm excited. Like I've always mentioned, popping seeds is an exciting time with lots of potential. But Tao, last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening, final thoughts before we roll.
Uh, Shout out to you, Jack, for hosting, and Spartan and Noah for showing up today, and shout out to all the past panelists. Shout out to everyone in chat. And yeah, you never know. We know what I realized at one point during my growing experience is you think you grow really good weed, right? It's really good, maybe the best that you got, from around town, whatever. But then something happens, whether you switch nutrients or you switch your growing, and then you go up a level, and you're like, damn, I didn't even know that, even though that shit was that good, that there was something that was even better. So until you might not even know that there's something better because it's so good, but there is another level. So that's why you always strive and experiment a little bit and try to make it better, because you just might not know that it gets better, and it does get better. Like, yeah, people, I'm still stunned that people don't know what good weed is. And there's just a plethora of people on this planet that really don't have a clue of what really good, exceptional, good weed is. And the shit that I think is garbage is the best shit that they ever smoked in their existence. So there's levels, and you never know. It could get better. So, yeah, keep striving for better and doing slight experiments. And, yeah, that's my take on that situation. So, peace out, everyone. And yeah, glad I made it tonight.
We're glad to have you. Couldn't agree more with that last sentiment because I've been there. Like I thought this was as good as I could get doing a certain way. And then I tweaked and changed, and I really loved my CMH light, and I was really crushing it underneath that light. And then when I switched to LED, I got a bit more flavor and a bit more color expression, a bit more phenotypic expression between the plants. And what I thought was a 10 out of 10 before became my new 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And my 10 out of 10 bar went up higher. And it's lovely to actually be able to continue to challenge yourself and change a little bit here and there. And sometimes it might not be as good. And that's why I talked about being brutally honest earlier. You got to be able to say, like, hey, I made a change and sometimes it didn't work, or maybe I need to give it another cycle or two to see if I can dial things in. But with all that said, we're a few minutes over, and I know that the Michigan Bros Grow Show isn't going on right now, but I do look forward to whenever they get popping back again over there. And shout out to all those guys. I got to hit up Sequence because I'm gonna have them make the cover of 50 Strands of Purple, which I'm gonna try and get wrapped up here as soon as possible. I know I mentioned it's been done for like almost a year at this point, and I just need to get it formatted in terms of the photos to the text and having it all printable in a good looking package. But Sequence did such a good job with the cover on the first and second edition that I want to make sure that he gets the chance to do that again for me, and I can hook him up a little bit for his time there. And shout out to him and all the great people in Michigan, all the Michigan growers out there listening, and everybody else who's listening all over live or afterward on X and all the podcast platforms. We appreciate all of you. Um, I just saw we passed like 800,000 listens on the podcast platform, and we've got like, I want to say like five or 600,000 on YouTube. So we're like over a million total between those two, which is pretty humbling. And it'll be pretty cool to see that podcast go over a million. I know we've been doing it for a while, and there's lots of shows with lots more views, but it's humbling for me to see those numbers just keep on getting higher and higher. When I hit 420K, I was like, oh my God, 420,000 people. Like that's a lot of listens. 710,000, the 710. And then now we're over 800, and it's just keeps on going. So thank you all so much for your support and your listenership. And we really do genuinely appreciate it. We wouldn't keep showing up this week if it was just, we probably would actually at this point just come and hang out with each other, even if none of you guys showed up, because
Done it
admittedly
before,
1 week
man.
that happened. Yep. 1 week we couldn't get going live. So I will say we do enjoy each other's company enough just to come hang, and I'm glad that we do. And you all get to come hang out, enjoy us, and enjoy the time with us. So cheers, everybody. Catch you all next week. Peace and love.